Niners win. Preseason game number 2 is a victory. You're tuned into Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you. Final score 21-20. Niners knock off the Denver Broncos. Jake Moody, the rookie, a last-second field goal. It just snuck in the right upright, and 49ers are victorious in overtime game number 2. Again, a win 21-20 over the Denver Broncos.
We got one when it matters, Mark.
Gotta win. 1-1 now in the preseason, but the story in the fourth quarter, Trey Lance helps lead the 49ers from behind to a victory. It was a shaky performance for Trey Lance at times, but when it mattered, he made a couple of big throws, led the Niners down the field a couple of times. They win 21-20. Again, I don't care about the win as much. It feels good, and it was nice to see that kick go through for Jake Moody. More so, though, just thrilled that Trey Lance got into a rhythm there in that fourth quarter, put together a number of really nice throws. But 21-20, the final score. Niners come out on top. You're listening to Overtime on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570 is the Xfinity mobile text line. We are having some issues with our phone line, so give us a text, 888-957-9570. Also check us out on YouTube and on Twitch. Just search 95.7 The Game. But Sterling, what a game. It was strange. It started with Brock Purdy coming in and looking like he was last year.
Oh, yeah.
And then Sam Darnold played a little bit more than we were expecting. Trey Lance got off to a rough start, but he redeemed himself with a fantastic last couple of drives, and the Niners sneak out of Santa Clara with a win. What'd you think?
Can I say it? Feels great, baby. Woo! San Francisco, we're not going winless in preseason, boys. Feels great. But no, look, seeing Brock Purdy come out there and reestablish himself and look like this team's starting quarterback, being efficient with the football, leading a very concise, accurate drive, getting in the field goal range, and there's a couple plays he left out there on the field. Maybe that touchdown to Dewan Jennings he didn't hit, but overall, really good to see Brock Purdy back out there. Sam Darnold, also a really good day, being the backup quarterback, got plenty of reps behind Brock Purdy, and Trey Lance, probably the story of the game, probably going to outshine Brock Purdy when people talk about this on Monday morning with Bonte and Joe Shasky. 12 of 18, 173 yards, 1 touchdown, led the game-winning drive. This may have been the best 3 quarterback performance I've seen in a quarterback room in San Francisco in a really long time. And I think today, after looking at last week against the Raiders, a much more confident team coming into Levi Stadium, now leaving Levi Stadium tonight, they should feel really good about this performance. And I think fans should feel really good about how their team performed today.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Where should we start? Do you want to start with Brock Purdy? Because that's how the game
Moody,
started?
Man. Jake Moody and Cam Latu. Come on, you know.
Jake Moody, I mean, he delivered what he needed. It wasn't good.
3 for 3 on field goals, though.
He missed an extra point. He missed his first kick.
He had 9 points compared to 1 miss. Who cares?
He made the 32-yard field goal to win the game, made another field goal earlier in the fourth quarter from 43 yards out, and made one a chip shot in the first quarter from 20 yards out. Jake Moody was fine. It did get a little scary at times after he missed that extra point, but ultimately he hits the game winner. Trey Lance gets him down the field multiple times in the fourth quarter. In fact, the Niners had 3 scoring drives in the fourth quarter. The first Jake Moody field goal, and then the long touchdown drive, 7 plays, 75 yards, and then the field goal drive that ended the game, a perfectly executed 2-minute drill by the San Francisco 49ers, led by Trey Lance. I was just impressed by Trey Lance and his ability to shake off some struggles early. It wasn't pretty early.
The interception on a screen pass.
There was another throw that could have easily been intercepted. It was kind of just a jump ball across your fingers, throw it up to his running back against a linebacker on the left flat off of his back foot. He was letting it rip, Mark. Not in that way. That's not how I want that to happen. But the way he bounced back after that was super impressive. I wasn't really... Once I saw those few bad throws early, I won't lie, I lost a lot of faith. I lost belief that he was going to be able to bounce back in this game specifically, but he really did. You look at his final numbers, 12 of 18, 173 and a touchdown with that 1 interception. He was impressive in the fourth quarter, and he delivered a number of really, really clutch throws consecutively, especially on that touchdown drive before that last field goal
It was
drive.
a 6-play stretch, probably the best Trey Lance has ever looked in a San Francisco 49er uniform, in the flat to Bell, then one to Latu, then a slant to Martin. Like, there was a few plays he looked like, again, that first-round talent we talked about coming into today, that we wanted to see Trey Lance play with the urgency of maybe a guy on the bubble of the roster, but also carry your confidence like you're a former first-round draft pick. Early wasn't looking like that, but late, he really looked like that person they expected him to be coming into his first year in San Francisco. But now, 3 years in, this is the best Trey Lance in a very small, 6-play, maybe 2 total drives has looked. This is a going from against the Raiders last week to now, it's almost like the entire script has flipped on him, where last week, not great at all. Could have thrown 2 picks, inconsistent, not throwing the ball where he should, not hitting open receivers. Today, in those last couple of drives, almost the exact opposite, being decisive, being accurate, being on time. And we saw what happens. You have 3 scoring drives, a touchdown drive, and a field goal, game-winning field goal drive. This is the Trey Lance we've been wanting to see for 3 years in San Francisco. And Game 2, week 2 of the preseason, and in year 3, we're starting to see that come alive. Hopefully he can carry that over into Game 3 against the Chargers next week, though.
Yeah, so his first drive, it came in the third quarter. Sam Darnold kind of unexpectedly had 2 drives in the third quarter, 5 total drives for Sam Darnold. Trey Lance ended up with 4 drives. Trey Lance's first drive wasn't pretty, did extend a play, rolled to the right, found Tate Martin on the sideline for a conversion. And then he had just a throw out to the flat to McNichols, who's a running back trying to fight for a spot on this roster. And then they drew up a screen play. Trey Lance, you got to get a little bit of air underneath the ball. It was tipped and intercepted by a defensive lineman.
It's a give-me throw you have to make.
You got to, that's a situation where the defensive lineman, once he gets in that situation and everyone on the defense on the sideline is yelling out, screen, 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 you know what's coming. And if you're a defensive lineman, the ball is going to be thrown over your head. You can jump. You could be 7 feet tall. You're not going to have a chance to knock it down. That's just what it is. Trey Lance simply did not put enough air under the ball. Great play by the defender. You can't take it away from him. But that's a situation where if you're the quarterback, the defense knows what's coming. That defender knows what's coming. They could jump early. They could do everything. They could be jumping off of a chair. It does not matter. They should not be able to make a play on that ball. It's simply put, Trey Lance has to put a little more air underneath that ball. Ends up being an interception. Really, really bad moment for Trey Lance there. Then his next drive, he comes out and puts together better moments. He ends up getting down for a field goal for Jake Moody. He comes back out in his third drive. The first play of that drive in the fourth quarter, makes a throw facing pressure off of his back foot, a jump ball to the left side in the flat. To I think it was Tyrion Davis-Price, the running back there, lined up against a linebacker. Linebacker has a size advantage.
He had his hands down the whole time. Didn't even try.
TDP did not help out his quarterback at all.
He said, what is catching the football? I don't know what this concept is.
Didn't try to become a defensive back and knock the ball away. It ended up just bouncing off the hands of the linebacker. I guess that's why that linebacker was playing defense and not offense, because he has no hands.
Thought it was Camelot to you for a second, but he had a good game today, mind you. He had a good game.
Should have been an interception. It was dropped, whatever. Trey Lance responds to that. 6 straight completions from that point on, including a 3rd and 13 conversion to Cam Latu, a nice throw to Willie Snead over the middle. I think his best throw of the night, 18 yards. There was a safety blitz that came. He saw where it was coming from. Willie Snead was in that vacated area by the blitzing safety. Trey Lance found him for a nice gain. A slant to Tay Martin, another perfect throw to Willie Snead over the middle for 14 yards. And then Cam Latu down the seam. He looked off the safety, and he just threw it over the top of a linebacker for a touchdown. And then the final drive, which was more so big play by the running backs and by
Ronnie Bell
on yards after catch.
Oh, yeah.
We can talk about him a little bit. But the way Trey Lance bounced back after 2, I'll be honest, 2 of the worst decisions I've seen a quarterback make in this league. The way he bounced back was super impressive and just great to see. He had a big smile on his face after the game.
You saw that fire finally come out of him.
You really did. And it was incredible because I lost a ton of faith. I did not believe he was going to be able to bounce back and make good plays, let alone come back and win the game. But just to see him bounce back the way he did, this is a gigantic win for Trey Lance. Doesn't necessarily mean I think he's going to win the QB2 battle.
Right.
Certainly not going to win QB1. We could talk about where we think that stands at this point. But after a gigantic negative last week, this is a positive for Trey Lance. I don't think there's any other way to put it.
Well, and I think coming into the game, again, there were so much concerns of, is he quarterback 3? Like, could they trade him? Like, what does that look like? What would that value be? And I think, leaving today, Kyle Shanahan, Niner fans, me, you, we should feel confident with these 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Purdy, Darnold, and Lance. All of them showed who they are at their best. And all 3 of those guys are, whether they're starting level, who knows, but at least 2 of them, in my opinion, being Purdy and Lance, have shown in this game that they could be at a certain point in their careers starting caliber quarterbacks. We know Purdy's quarterback 1, undisputed right now, but the way Lance played, it's not just, bouncing back after a rough start. The offensive line was atrocious once again for him. Every single play, it felt like someone on the defense was back there in the backfield, in his face. He's avoiding pressure, running out of the pocket, trying to find space to run or throw the football. He did a great job where that stuff can rattle you early. Last week, you could definitely tell it did, where those first 3 drives were under 2 minutes for the first 3. Today, it felt like they were much more, there were easy throws for him. He wasn't afraid to actually let it rip today. One early, we can talk about later maybe, but today, I think for Trey Lance, like after the clunker he put together last week, leaving today, like there should be so much confidence in him right now. Whether it's a teammate, we talked about not having an advocate the past couple years. Today, I think that would make me as a teammate want to stand up and advocate for him to be quarterback 2.
Okay, I have a question for you, and this actually comes after a comment I saw on the YouTube page. You can check it out, youtube.com/957thegame. Which quarterback of the 3, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, who had the best performance today?
Well, Purdy had 1 drive, so let's not act like he may not have scored 20 points, right? So it's 1 drive, but I'll just put it between Darnold and Lance. Very different performances. Darnold, I think, was kind of hurt by, his 1 interception was off Ronnie Bell's face mask. It really wasn't his fault. Whereas Trey, I think Trey had more bad plays than Darnold did, but I do think he had better good plays than Darnold did. So if you had to throw it out there, they're probably in the middle, but I think I would say Trey Lance between Darnold and Lance looked much better tonight.
I think Trey Lance had of the 2 the worst throws of the night, but also the best throws of the night.
Yes.
And that's kind of what this conversation has turned into, right? Trey Lance, he has a wide range of outcomes.
Yes.
He can end up on 2 extremes.
Yeah.
It could be really, really good. And we saw it those final couple of drives. I mean, chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. He used his legs at times as well. He seemed to be a little more able to extend plays. He's still doesn't have blazing speed. I think we have to forget about that. It doesn't seem like he's ever going to be that guy, which is fine. You don't have to be a crazy athlete to be a good
Lamar
quarterback
Jackson
in this
here,
league.
but extend the play with your legs and hit the throw.
And he did that a few times. He looked really good. Those were the highs, but the lows were still a little.
Yes.
There were some bad moments. I don't want to sugarcoat it. Those 2 throws that he made, the interception on the screen pass, and then that jump ball to TDP, the left flat, those are terrible decisions. But I wasn't all that impressed by Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's the interception again. It was a line drive throw at the face mask of Ronnie Bell. At the very least, you can't let that one pop up into the air, Ronnie. Right. You got to get your hands on it. Maybe you drop it, but you can't let it pop up into the air. Not on Sam Darnold. But I think if you were to ask me who had between the 2 of those quarterbacks, the 3 most impressive throws between those 2, I think they were all Trey Lance.
Sam Darnold gained no ground tonight, but didn't lose any. I think Trey Lance gained a lot of ground tonight. I think that's where I'm at, where you look at what Trey Lance did. Yeah, some bad stuff you can point to and say you cannot make those 2 throws, if you're going to be a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. But for Sam Darnold, you look at his throws and nothing too crazy. Again, for Darnold, if you're just mediocre, you're going to win a job here, whether it's 2 or 3. And I think many of us would assume if Sam Darnold is kind of this in the middle, he'll win quarterback 2. But for Trey tonight to have the uneasiness early to bounce back, to make, like you said, some of the best throws of the night, if not the best 4, 5, or 6 throws of the night, I think Trey Lance gained a ton of ground tonight in the quarterback 2 conversation. Leaving tonight, or coming into tonight, I mean, you probably agreed Purdy, then Darnold, then Lance. I think right now, after tonight, it kind of looks like it's Purdy, Darnold, or Lance, like the depth chart told us coming into the season.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was impressed. I mean, he had the throw. Let's see, which one was it? I'm looking through my notes here. He had a couple of really nice throws. There was one on his third drive, which was the touchdown drive. He threw it to Snead over the middle. It was where the safety blitz came from the right side. Snead was the wide receiver in the slot off to the right. Trey Lance saw the safety blitz come on the right, which again was where Snead was, and knew where the hot route was, knew immediately where Snead was, knew where the vacated space was by the safety, and immediately saw it, and guess what? Immediately let it rip. That is not a play he made last week.
No.
He seemed unsure of himself last week. He seemed flustered at times. He seemed uncertain. It almost seemed like he wasn't comfortable believing what his eyes were telling him. There was a delay between what he saw and his decision to throw. In that particular instance, and I think in a number of instances in this game, he trusted his instincts. He trusted what he saw on the field. He saw the safety blitz come from the right, looked to the right. Willie Snead in the open space vacated by that safety, delivered him a perfect ball for a nice gain over the middle part of the field. There are other examples as well. The touchdown pass to Cam Latu, just a seam route down the right side. He looked off the safety, looked left, drew the safety away from Cam Latu down the right seam, threw the pass with a little bit of loft over the top of the linebacker, perfectly placed to Latu. Two throws that I have not seen Trey Lance make with regularity in his career as a 49er. So those are two moments, and there's a couple others that you mentioned, maybe even six that you could point to where you're like, wow, that was impressive, Trey, great work. But those two stand out to me, moments where Trey Lance showed marked improvement. And that's what I was so disappointed in last week. He looked like a rookie.
Yeah.
He looked too indecisive. He looked like he had not been in this system before, looked like he has not seen NFL defenders before. And these are reserve guys that are fighting for roster spots. These aren't stars. But this time around, this game tonight, just seemed like he was so much more prepared. And it was the first time in a while I can say, honestly, that I felt like Trey Lance looked like a much better player than when we saw him last.
We'll take it further. This may have been the first night we've seen the entire arsenal of his on display. Legs, the amazing arm strength, some touch with the football. Trey Lance has been a quarterback where you know he can gun it in there, but the touch has always been lacking. The inaccuracies in the short intermediate game were lacking. Tonight, there were many slant routes on the money. Boom, first down. Boom, a screen to Ronnie Bell. Give your guys opportunities to make plays. In that 6-play drive, on that third drive, he truly did that. He extended plays with his legs. The arsenal was on display for the first time, it felt like, in Trey Lance's entire career. Like, we didn't see that in year one. We definitely didn't see it in year two. But in year three, in preseason, week 2 against the Denver Broncos, Trey Lance truly had the arsenal on display for the first time in his entire career.
Let me ask you something, and this also comes from the YouTube chat.
They're on fire tonight, YouTube is. Wow.
They really are. We appreciate all you guys tuning in here on YouTube. You can also hit us up on the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570. Unfortunately, our phone line's a little bit of an issue right now, but you can text us, again, on the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570. If not, you can check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/957thegame, and on Twitch, twitch.tv/957thegame. Number of comments here talking about how everyone was overreacting to Trey Lance's performance last week.
Yeah.
Normal of a guy coming off of a serious ankle injury. After watching what you saw tonight from Trey Lance, do you feel like we overreacted? Most people overreacted to what we saw from Trey Lance last week. I'm not so sure because it seemed less physical to me.
Right.
As opposed to just it wasn't clicking
it was
mentally.
Mental. Yes, right.
This was kind of the culmination of things clicking. It felt like mentally and physically. But perhaps we do need to cut the guy a little bit of slack coming off of a major injury, not playing in a competitive game in a really long time. Now we'll see if he can continue this and take another step forward. But I don't know. Perhaps we wrote him off a little bit too early after last week's performance.
I don't know if it's writing him off, but people were saying, the ankle injury, the rust, not playing a game in a year, having little experience, that's why he played so bad against Las Vegas last weekend. Okay, maybe we came, too hard down his road, but there are some contextual things that you can't forget. if he plays bad against Las Vegas, which he did, very bad, and comes into today and also plays bad, we're talking about he's quarterback 3 undoubtedly, because Sam Darnold was good today, by all accounts. He wasn't great, but he was good. That leaves one final game on the docket to maybe prove yourself to be quarterback 3, right? But today he comes in, and after all the talk about him all week, after all the hate he got from the media, Michael Lombardi, LaShawn McCoy, talking poorly about him, I like that he came in, he kind of cleared his head, and after a rough start, found a stretch of plays that you can look at and point to and say, this right here is
That's
why you're here. Exactly.
You.
This is why we drafted you 3 years ago. This is why. Last week, it wasn't pretty. This week, it was gorgeous. It was like an entire flip. It was like, where has this Trey Lance been? This wasn't here when you were a rookie. Okay, fine, you're a rookie. This wasn't even here last year in training camp or preseason. Trey Lance did not look good in preseason last year at all. Not against Houston or against Green Bay. This was the best Trey Lance we have ever seen, bar none. And if he can do this again, coming into against the Chargers next week, I don't see how you don't leave the preseason saying, hey, we have 3 good quarterbacks, and Trey Lance might be the second best one. And if more reps come in, maybe he is something that we thought he was going to be 3 years ago.
Maybe. Let's take a listen to one of his really good throws. It was the Trey Lance touchdown to Cameron Latu in the fourth quarter, the second to last drive of the night for Trey Lance. The perfect throw down the right seam, finding his tight end, Cam Latu. Here's how it sounded.
Quickly to the line of scrimmage. Quick throw, middle of the field, pass to the goal line, caught, and that is a San Francisco touchdown. That ball caught by Cameron Latu on a seam route. The tight end just right up the right side in between the penalty flag thrown. Right side between the numbers and the out of bounds. A 22-yard play if it stands.
That's the Denver Broncos radio network there. Thanks to them for that one. The penalty, that was another funny moment in this game. So the Niners down by 8 in the fourth quarter. That touchdown comes with, about 2.5 minutes left in the game. Niners down 8 at that point. 22-yard touchdown pass from Trey Lance to Cameron Latu, who had his best preseason game of his career.
No drops today. There was a close one. He was, oh my goodness, I caught the football. He definitely was doing a body catch against his chest. But
yes. Definitely the best moment of his career so far there. We can talk more about that a little later on here on Overtime. But that touchdown cuts it to a 2-point game with 2.5 minutes left. And before the Niners can really celebrate that much, they get a penalty because Brandon Aiyuk, not even in his pads anymore, comes running onto the field
with the chains on and everything.
Cost the 49ers 15 yards and a penalty. And of course, knowing the Niners are planning on going for 2, it gets enforced on the point after attempt. And the 2-point conversion attempt, and the Niners have to try to get it from 17 yards away. Ultimately, they don't get it. The defense forces a stop. They get the ball back, and they go on to win the game. But a funny moment there down the stretch, and Trey Lance converts, throws a touchdown. One of his best friends on the team, Brandon Aiyuk, runs onto the field, tries to celebrate with him, and ultimately hurts the team a little bit because he hurts their chances to tie the ball game up and towards the end of the fourth quarter at the 2-minute warning. But the defense gets the stop. They get the ball back. Trey Lance drives them down the field again, and they ultimately win on the last-second field goal by Jake Moody. But a funny moment there. Brandon Aiyuk almost costing his team a chance to win the game, or at least tie the game at the end of regulation.
I know it doesn't matter according to you, Mark, but had they lost the game, I would have been livid. Brandon Aiyuk, what's wrong with you, sir? We have to win these preseason games. But no. Great moment. You can tell it's a receiver who has been working out with Trey Lance for a long time.
They're
best
really
friends.
close.
To see him out there supporting a teammate, you can tell that I'm sure he has seen what Trey has gone through, and I'm sure they've confided in each other about, hey, man, I broke my ankle. Now I lost my job. That's been a struggle for him. Aiyuk being in Shanahan's doghouse, I'm sure they've talked about so many things. And to kind of see this moment of Trey, we're finally doing this. You're finally back in the end zone after almost an entire year out of the NFL.
You're my boy!
Right. It's really a kind of a nice, beautiful moment of friends being in the end zone, celebrating each other finally, because this was supposed to be Trey's team last year, and it wasn't because he got hurt. Now he's back on the field, finally scoring his first touchdown. Well, I guess first touchdown that actually was a touchdown, unlike last week against the Raiders, but a very nice moment for teammates and probably pretty good friends.
Yeah, a really, really fun moment. Great to see that. Niners ultimately come out with the win, 21-20 over the Broncos in preseason week number 2. Back to 500, 1-1 on the year. Half hour down. We're with you until 11 o'clock here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. 2 more hours. Mark Randy, Sterling Bennett with you. A ton more to get to. More on Trey Lance, but we got to talk about Brock Purdy. He looked smooth in his first and only drive. We'll talk more about that. It's Overtime right here on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, guys. This is Keenan Thompson. I have a problem with you. Yes, you. None of y'all told me that Auto Trader has millions of...
play. And it is good. And it is over. And San Francisco will get out of here with a 21-20 win over the Denver Broncos.
I thought it was pretty important. The first time down there, I was hoping to get him one. Probably would have gone for it if it wasn't his first time. I want to get him his first kick, so it was good to get that out of the way after last week. And I know after he missed that extra point, wanted to get him another one, and thought it was going to be a farther one, but Ty broke a long one there at the end, and it was just good to get the winner.
Now back to overtime on 95.7 The Game.
21-20, 49ers beat the Denver Broncos. That highlight you heard of the Jake Moody game-winning field goal courtesy of the Denver Broncos radio network. And then you heard Kyle Shanahan talking about his rookie kicker, Jake Moody, who was 3 for 3 on field goals today, missed an extra point, but ultimately redeemed himself with 2 fourth-quarter field goals, including that game winner as time expired, to give the 49ers a 21-20 win. You're listening to Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you. 888-957-9570 is the Xfinity mobile text line. Unfortunately, our phones are having a bit of an issue right now, so shoot us a text on the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570, or hit us up on the YouTube or Twitch chat. We are keeping an eye on all of them here on Overtime. We're with you for 2 more hours until 11 o'clock. Woo! Woo! It's a fun game. 21-20, the final score. We saw 3 quarterbacks for the 49ers, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, and Trey Lance. Brock Purdy, 1 drive to begin, was efficient, looked like the normal Brock Purdy that we've come to expect. Sam Darnold, not flashy, but solid. Threw an interception, but it was an unfortunate bounce of a ball off of his receiver's face mask. Trey Lance, a little bit of a slow start, but absolutely was fantastic at the end, led the 49ers back, and is the number one reason why this team picked up a win today, 21-20 over the Denver Broncos. But let's just start, I think, from the beginning. Let's rewind all the way back to the beginning of the game. Brock Purdy comes out with a number of starters, and he goes right down the field, 4 for 5, 65 yards, hits a couple of easy passes to Deebo Samuel, who does Deebo Samuel things, breaks tackles, gets a lot of yards after the catch.
He looks great, by the way.
He does. Niners in field goal range. Jake Moody makes a gimme from 20 yards out. Niners lead 3-0. I don't know how you felt, Sterling, but watching Brock Purdy back in action, again, only 1 drive, 4 for 5, 65 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. It looked exactly like it looked last year. He looked like he has not been out for months with an elbow injury.
To the people who aren't sold yet, are you sold now? He came off it. People talked about, Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, the whole dynamic of, wait till Brock comes back off the injury and see how he plays in week 1, what the rust he'll have. And it's not to knock Trey whatsoever. Brock Purdy showed literally 0 rust. It looked like he'd been at every single practice, every single OTAs, every single minicamp. It looked like he never even had surgery. Like, what? Like, Brock Purdy looked like the guy who put up 40 points in the second half against Washington last year. He looked like the guy that won 2 playoff games, one of them against the number 2 defense in football last year. Yes, there were some plays. Maybe he could have threw a touchdown to Jennings. Okay, forgive that. But he marches down the field on his first drive, goes 4 for 5, 65 yards, gets you a field goal. I mean, if that's not what you want your starting quarterback to do in their first drive of the preseason in almost 8 months after surgery, that could have totally changed his entire career. Like, if you aren't sold, folks, are you sold now?
Yeah, I think the argument is, okay, there were dump-offs to Deebo.
Who cares?
All the yards after the catch. I'm with you, but this is the argument against Brock Purdy, right? 4 for 5, again.
Dink and dunk quarterback.
Exactly. So the first play is a play action. They boot to the left, a drop off to Deebo Samuel. He just runs between like 3 tacklers, gains 25 yards because that's what Deebo does. Next play, he escapes pressure. It was just a bad block by Jake Brendel. Throws an incompletion to Deebo. It was kind of a throwaway. Ultimately, good decision. You're facing pressure. Nothing bad there from Brock Purdy. After that, another dump off to Deebo Samuel. He gains 14 yards. Then here, the next play, I think, was his best throw of the game. It was a crossing pattern. Juwan Jennings from right to left, kind of the second level of the defense. Perfectly puts it over the top of a linebacker, right into the breadbasket for Juwan Jennings.
Give him the hezzy in the backfield.
Yeah, near the left sideline for an 11-yard gain. They moved the chains. He also hit Aiyuk on a nice slant for 15 yards. So he hit all of his receivers at least once, all of his starting receivers, that is. He was sacked, evaded some pressure for a while, still ended up getting sacked. And then on 3rd and 10, scrambled for 8 yards, had a decision, either go out of bounds and definitely don't get the first down, but also don't get hit, or get hit, stay in bounds, and try to get the first down. He ultimately decided, let's try to get the first down, which I was screaming at him for. Just go out of bounds, Brock. We don't need you getting hit.
Please get down.
Ended up getting 8 yards. The Niners settle for a field goal. But I'm with you. I don't know how you could watch what Brock Purdy did in that first drive. His first live game action since the NFC Championship game where he popped his UCL in his right elbow. He looked incredible. And the throws weren't 40-yard bombs down the field, sure. But that's not what Brock Purdy did to dice up defenses last year anyway. This is how the Niners beat teams. That's how they went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback. They hope Brock Purdy has an extra gear that he can get to. But if he's doing this, what he did in this one drive today, the 49ers have as good of a chance as anybody to win the NFC.
Well, take it even further. Win the NFC, but if Brock Purdy plays like this, which many fans may not like because it's not their style of play at quarterback, because they want the Mahomes and the Josh Allen and the Burrow, and I get it. But if he plays this efficient for 17, 18, 22 games, they're going to be in the thick of this thing come February. They're going to be fighting in the Final Four again. I know it's one game. Let's pump the brakes on Brock Purdy for one game. He probably ain't going to play Friday at all against the Chargers. I get it, right? But if this is the only version of Brock Purdy you see, this is the only glimpse, one drive of Brock Purdy you see in the preseason leading up to week 1 against Pittsburgh, are you happy? Are you comfortable? I know I am. Are you, Mark?
I'm comfortable. That's really all I needed to see.
Yeah.
This is... So he could have not played in a preseason game. He probably won't play next week. That's still TBD. We don't know that for sure. Maybe Kyle Shanahan will talk about that post-game when we can hear from him in a little bit about that. And this, one drive isn't going to change his range of outcomes, right? It's not changing how he feels, how he plays, any of that in my mind, but it's just confirmation for us. Okay, he's fine, right?
This quiets the entire, can Trey still be quarterback 1? Or, why does Kyle Shanahan call him the real deal? You saw it today. This is why. And it's preseason. The outcomes don't matter. I get that. But all week long, for the past months on end, we've heard, Trey has a chance. Why is Sam Darnold here? Brock Purdy isn't healthy. He's healthy. He's here. And he's ready to go. Buy in. Shanahan has. Let's all buy in today. Why can't we do that? I know I am. I know you are. But some fans text line saying Trey's still better. Put Purdy in against the backups. There's a reason Brock Purdy's not playing against backups. He's a starting quarterback, and he earned that job last year and has earned it throughout the entirety of camp and in this preseason game.
Okay, well, that's an interesting conversation that we can have because Brock Purdy played one drive, and there were a number of starters out there with him. 4 of the 5 offensive linemen, everyone except for Trent Williams. His 3 starting wide receivers did not have his starting tight end, George Kittle, did not have his starting running back in Christian McCaffrey. So he missed McCaffrey, Kittle, and Williams. Everyone else would, as expected, were out there for the 49ers on offense. Sam Darnold got some starters. He got all of the 4 offensive line starters stayed in for Sam Darnold, at least early on.
First drive for
Sam Darnold. He also had Juwan Jennings.
Kyle Juszczyk.
And Kyle Juszczyk did not have Deebo Samuel, did not have Brandon Aiyuk. Trey Lance, no starters, of course, which you'd expect. He got in midway through the third quarter. In fact,
minute 22 left in the third quarter.
Very end of the third quarter. Really had a quarter plus a couple of minutes. Trey Lance playing with 0 starters. Obviously, I'm not here to say that's unfair because Brock Purdy is the starter. He's earned all of those reps. I'm not saying it's unfair. When we try to evaluate these quarterbacks, though, does the fact that one played with a ton of starters, one played with some starters, and the other one played with no starters, does that impact the way you think about these quarterbacks' performances today? Because some of them were playing with more talent than others.
Well, I think it has to. Had Trey Lance started this game and played with, Brandon Aiyuk and Juwan Jennings and 4 of the starting offensive linemen and Deebo Samuel, you should look better. The difference is when he's had that opportunity in years past, albeit in a small sample size, he hasn't looked better than Brock Purdy ever has. So, yes, coming into this game, had Trey Lance had one drive like Brock Purdy did with the starters and put together 4 for 5, 65 yards in a field goal drive, I would have left this game saying Trey Lance looked pretty good. He looked efficient. He looked like a starting quarterback. And if Brock Purdy did what Trey Lance did today, we'd be having the same conversation of Brock Purdy looked pretty good with those third string guys. So I don't think it's a had Purdy play with the third string, he'd look way worse because Trey looked pretty good against third stringers. That can also be a knock on Trey Lance. You diced up third string defensive backs and linebackers.
True.
Like, good for you. Like, you ain't playing against a top 5 defense against Dallas or against Denver. You're not doing that stuff. So, like, it can go both ways of, yeah, it's good for all the 3 guys. You can only go against the competition you're playing. But let me tell you this. The competition level didn't change their minds when they drafted Trey Lance. NDSU, small college, he wasn't playing against the SEC, and they still picked him 3rd overall. So why does it matter?
Well, the other thing is just rewind to last preseason when literally the roles were reversed.
Yeah.
Trey Lance was the starter playing with some other starters going against starting defenses for the most part. And you said it earlier today, didn't have a great preseason. He did not look that good. He didn't give Niner fans a ton of confidence heading into week 1.
Didn't give the team that much confidence heading into week 1.
Brock Purdy, meanwhile, was getting the fourth quarter reps and didn't absolutely blow everyone away, not throwing like for 200 yards and a half and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but played well and was surprising. You heard it here on 95.7 The Game a year ago on the overtimes last year. Not with, I wasn't on those shows, but I remember listening and being like, wait, this guy Brock Purdy, he's got a little something to him. Like, it was apparent when you watched preseason games last year, and that was Brock Purdy with non-starters, third-string guys going up against third-string defenders, and Trey Lance wasn't having a ton of success with the starter. So I think ultimately it just comes down to the fact that Brock Purdy earned to be with the starters, and he's playing well with the starters. That's the end of that conversation for me. I think there is something to be said for the fact that that Trey Lance didn't have the ability to, didn't have the security blanket of a Deebo Samuel. He could just drop it off to. And in order to move the ball with a unit like that, a little more of the onus is on you as the quarterback.
Right.
Trey Lance does have, though, the physical skills and attributes.
The ceiling is still higher for Trey Lance.
That Brock Purdy doesn't have. Yeah. Trey Lance has a rocket for an arm. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's taller, he's probably quicker in terms of running.
I think he's faster, but Purdy's quicker.
Yeah, that's probably the better way to put it. But that's what makes what Trey Lance did, despite the fact that he was playing against third-string defenses, what he was able to do with a Ronnie Bell at wide receiver, who we've seen a lot of, and I think you and I are both relatively excited about, despite some moments. But him being able to do that and lead this team back in the fourth quarter with relative unknowns on offense is impressive, and I don't want to overlook that because I think he deserves that recognition.
Trey Lance looked really good today. Trey Lance looked like he belongs in the NFL. Yes, against third-string guys with a third-string offense. Sure, with starting players and Deebo Samuel and Aiyuk and Kittle and Chris McCaffrey, would he look better? Yeah, he should, and I think he would. But unfortunately, that's not going to matter. Like, Trey Lance is not going to get first-team reps, no matter how good he plays, if Brock Purdy continues to do what he did today. It's never going to happen. And for Trey Lance, who I wanted to draft Trey Lance. I said, wow, if they can unlock this quarterback, there's something here. Maybe it's still there. The ceiling to me is still higher for Trey Lance. But right now, at this very moment, after a really good game from Trey Lance, where I think me and you can agree, this is, if not the best, one of the best, quarter and a half of plays ever put together in the NFL. That he's still fighting for quarterback 2 and might as well win it. But that third preseason game, it's going to come down to that one to me.
I think the bottom line is this for me. Last week, Niners against the Raiders, Trey Lance really struggled, did not look good. Sam Darnold was good. Okay, whatever. Last week was not good for the San Francisco 49ers.
As a whole.
Quarterbacks included, I think, for the most part. This week, Brock Purdy, 4 for 5, 65 yards in one drive. He looked fantastic. Sam Darnold, 11 of 14, 109 yards, a touchdown and an interception. interception wasn't really his fault.
Nope.
Trey Lance, 12 of 18, 173 yards, a touchdown, 1 interception, yes. But he led the team back in the fourth quarter, 3 scoring drives in the fourth, including a big touchdown with 2.5 minutes left, and he executed a 2-minute drill to perfection to set up a 32-yard field goal by his rookie kicker to win the game 21-20. Last week was terrible for the San Francisco 49ers. This week, all 3 of their quarterbacks were fantastic. They all played well. I am sick and tired of the but Trey Lance, but Sam Darnold, but Brock Purdy. I'm so tired of the Brock v. Trey conversation. Bottom line, I'm a 49er fan. I want to see this team do well. And today, they had 3 quarterbacks who played great football. That is nothing but fantastic news for the San Francisco 49ers. I am so tired of us butting heads about quarterback 1 and potential quarterback 2. I am sick and tired of it. The bottom line is the Niners had 3 quarterbacks who played fantastic today, and if they keep that up throughout the course of a season, they can survive injuries to their quarterback position just like they did last year, because for once this preseason now, it feels like they have a little bit of depth at that position. They all played fantastic today.
Woo! Hallelujah, Mark Grandy. My goodness. Man. I need a towel. I'm sweating. The Holy Spirit's in here, Mark, and you're speaking to me, speaking to my soul. Yes, this may have been the best 3 quarterback performance I've ever seen from a quarterback room in the preseason. Again, it's preseason, but I leave this game thinking, okay, if Brock Purdy goes down at a certain point, Sam Darnold can run the offense. If Sam Darnold goes down, Trey Lance can run the offense, and we can still win games. Now, how much? I don't know. But if we're in a position where we got Josh Johnson out there, but instead of Josh Johnson, it's Trey Lance, I'm feeling good about myself. Instead of Josh Johnson, it's Sam Darnold, I'm feeling good about myself. Like, all 3 quarterbacks played probably at their highest level. Like, Sam Darnold was nearly perfect, minus the weird interception, right?
Yeah.
Brock Purdy, nearly perfect. Trey Lance, a little rough start, but ended nearly perfect. Like, these quarterbacks, if this is what they're going to do all year long, or at least have the ability to do all year long, no matter who goes down or how Shanahan wants to mix and match, I'm all for it. We got 3 guys after 2 weeks of the preseason that can go out there and do this thing and win us football games. That makes me happy, and I'm sure that makes Kyle Shanahan pretty comfortable, depending on who's going to be starting quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, 49er fans, ask yourself this question. How did you feel after watching Trey Lance play last week? How did you feel? Text us, 888-957-9570. How did you feel last week after watching Trey Lance play? I felt absolutely terrible. I have such incredible high hopes for this kid. I want him to be good so badly. I don't want the San Francisco 49ers to have to
trade him.
Trade him, stare down the barrel at one of the biggest busts in NFL history. Yeah. I don't want that to become reality. No. And it felt like that was becoming reality last week. Maybe we all were reacting way too harshly to one half of football. Okay, that's how I felt personally. I know that's how a lot of 49er fans felt personally. How do you feel this week now? After watching this game, I feel 100 times better.
Well, many fans say he should still be the starting quarterback.
Okay,
pump the brakes. But I think that's, like, right there is what fans have seen in Trey since day one. What they were promised about Trey Lance from day one. That he's going to be the franchise quarterback. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the next 10, 15 years. And it hasn't happened, may never happen. But leaving today, after Trey Lance goes 12 of 18, 173 yards, 9.6 yards per attempt, and 1 touchdown and 1 pick, and leads a game-winning drive and leads you to 3 straight scoring drives in the fourth quarter, you got to feel good. I'm excited. That makes me want to be glued to my seat on Friday when they take on the Chargers, because this job is up for grabs, being quarterback 2. There are 3 guys in the room that make you feel comfortable at playing quarterback. There are 2 of them, at least you can say, might be franchise guys. How many teams can say we have 2 franchise quarterbacks in the quarterback room? You couldn't do that with Jimmy and Trey. Maybe it's Purdy and Trey. Now, you got to pick one eventually, and I think Kyle already has, but I'm feeling good. Mark, you made me feel happy with the Holy Spirit, and oh my goodness, I'm sweating, I got the towel out, all this stuff. But yes, you have to feel good leaving today against the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm feeling good too. I think the Sentinels football channel, who's watching on YouTube and leaving us a couple of comments, I think he summed it up well. It's become too tribal. He's talking about the Brock Purdy tribe against the Trey Lance tribe. He followed it up by saying the entire team looked better. That's a W. I agree. 100%. The whole team looked better, and that's probably what happens when you're playing starters as opposed to last week in the preseason when you don't play any starters at all. But just focusing on the quarterbacks, you got to see Brock Purdy this week. You didn't get to see him last week. Sam Darnold put another solid performance together, and you're feeling a little more comfortable with him if he has to play. And Trey Lance looked 100 times better this week than he did last week. He shook off a couple of mistakes early and then was absolutely dominant for much of that fourth quarter. Fantastic to see. I don't know how you can leave this game feeling anything other than, all right, we have options at quarterback. We know who our starting quarterback is, but if there are issues, we have some options at quarterback. Today, just an absolutely fantastic day for the 49ers. There's no other way to look at it.
Well, I feel better now that I don't have to go home and put my head on the pillow and say, I hope Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt or season's over with. That's not how I feel anymore. Now, again, it's one game, but I think Niners fans can kind of go to bed with their eyes closed in peace. Okay, we have three guys that if Brock Purdy goes down or Sam Darnold goes down, whoever goes down, that the season isn't going to be over. That it's not going to be this catastrophic, oh my goodness, our starting quarterback is done. In a weird way, it's kind of going to look like last year, where you got three guys in the room that can actually get this thing done, and maybe the guy at the end, if that's Trey Lance or Sam Darnold, is the guy to, hold that Lombardi trophy. Who knows? Now, you hope Brock Purdy stays healthy, but if he goes down, you're going to bed saying, okay, there is some insurance there. The hedge San Francisco has made for the second year in a row might pay off, and if that ends in a championship or ends on a magical playoff run, I'm okay with that because you have three guys that can go out there and do this thing, can execute the offense, and have shown and proven now they can make Kyle Shanahan happy and his offense execute the game plan, albeit in a preseason game. But come week 1 or week 10 or week 12, if a guy goes down, next man up, and I'm feeling okay about it right now.
Do you think tonight was the best moment of Trey Lance's professional career?
Ooh.
I mean, I guess the win against the Texans as a rookie.
Yeah, that was a must-win game, but the Texans team kind of sucked.
And the first half was ugly.
Yeah.
Getting a win in a must-win game to keep a playoff hopes
compared
alive
to preseason
takes the cake. This was, I think, for more than a play here or there, this was the best extended run we've seen from Trey Lance, I think, in his professional career. Am I crazy for saying that?
No. I think consistency today was Trey's most consistent performance, albeit maybe 2 bad throws early. There was a good 3 drives where he looked like a competent quarterback.
More than 3 play. He's had some moments, you think back to his first start against Arizona as a rookie. He had some moments in that game as well, made some really nice throws. He filled in the week before against Seattle, found Deebo Samuel down the right sideline. I think he also ran for a touchdown in that game. He's had moments here or there, but my only point is, just kind of trying to run through the moments in my mind. I think I'm comfortable saying that, 3-drive stretch for Trey Lance where he got them into field goal range, kicked a field goal, drove down for a touchdown, and then executed the 2-minute drill for a field goal as time expired. That's the best 3-drive stretch of Trey Lance's professional career.
And I think because of that, whether you're a fan or even Kyle Shanahan, who I'm sure left last weekend saying, ooh, Trey Lance, I need to see more of you. He saw less of Trey Lance today, and Trey played so much better. A quarter in, a minute? Quarter in maybe 2 minutes? This was the best quarter in 2 minutes of Trey Lance's football career in red and gold. And I think Kyle Shanahan's leaving today feeling much better about the quarterback situation. I'm sure Trey Lance is leaving, thinking, I bounce back. I can put some demons, or I can put a lot of the hate behind me. And I think we've seen some perseverance from him, whether it's off the field or on the field. Michael Lombardi, LaShawn McCoy, the injury stuff, off the field stuff, that's behind him now. On the field, battle line play, some almost near picks, maybe some, TDP not fighting for a football he throws is kind of into coverage. He fights back and gets you 13 points to get you back and win the football game. That's big stuff from a young quarterback to fight through adversity and fight through something you really hadn't shown to be able to fight for the past 2 years.
Yeah, it's huge. He helps lead the Niners back in the preseason, 21-20, a victory over the Denver Broncos. Trey Lance, 12 of 18, 173 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. All right, time for a break here on Overtime. An hour and a half to go. Let us know your thoughts. Was this Trey Lance's best stretch as a professional quarterback? 888-957-9570. That's the Xfinity mobile text line. Let us know as well on YouTube and on Twitch. We're back with more Overtime. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett right after this on 95.7 The Game.
UCSF Sports Medicine Center is dedicated to treating every type of athlete, from kids to adults, amateurs to elite professionals.
State, the Denver Broncos radio network on the call there. You're listening to Overtime on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you. All three 49er quarterbacks solid. They had good games today. We will hear from one of those quarterbacks. Brock Purdy met with the media earlier. We will hear that sound coming up next hour in the 10 o'clock hour here on Overtime. So stick with us on 95.7 The Game. Let us know your thoughts tonight. 888-957-9570. That is the Xfinity mobile text line. Unfortunately, our phones are having technical difficulties tonight. So shoot us a text on the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570. Hit us up on YouTube and on Twitch as well. But something that I think is interesting, you and I, Sterling, were talking during the break about the moment where Brandon Aiyuk came out and celebrated on the field after Trey Lance led the Niners down the field to a touchdown, the Camelot 2 seam route down the right side to get them within 2 with 2.5 minutes left, going for the 2-point conversion to tie late in the game. But Brandon Aiyuk from the sideline runs onto the field, incurs a 15-yard penalty, pushes the Niners all the way back. Ultimately, they don't get the 2-point conversion. We'll hear from Kyle Shanahan about that in just a moment, and shocker, he was upset.
You think?
But you brought up something interesting. It's something we broke down on the kickoff show earlier today. It feels like the locker room has never fully been behind Trey Lance. When he was the starter last year, there was the awkwardness of Jimmy Garoppolo, and so many of the stars on this roster have been through the battles year after year with Jimmy Garoppolo, and they clearly love Jimmy Garoppolo. And there was always this sense that they felt like Jimmy Garoppolo was the better choice at quarterback for this team. You didn't really have a ton of emotional moments revolving around Trey Lance. And I know this is just a preseason game, and it's Brandon Aiyuk, who's good friends.
It means everything, Mark.
Who's good friends with Trey Lance and just wants to celebrate his good friend having a moment of success. But I didn't really think of it this way, and I'll let you explain as well, but it just felt like a moment where the roster was just genuinely happy to see Trey Lance perform well. And it's unfortunate, but it is the truth. We just haven't seen that too often because Trey Lance hasn't had many of those moments.
I agree that, yes, this is a friend celebrating his friend. That you had a great play, finally got in the end zone for the first time in forever, it feels like, or had 3 really good drives and are putting us in a position to win this preseason game. But could that have been Brandon Aiyuk advocating for Trey Lance? Could it have been him, Brandon Aiyuk, a 1,000-yard receiver, this team's leading target getter last year, advocating for Trey Lance of, hey, you're my best friend, but I also maybe would like you to be my quarterback number 2 this year? Could it be him advocating, going out on the field, putting a public display out there for the entire, Bay Area to see of, hey, I'm backing this guy, will others join me?
Maybe. I don't know.
You saw Moody, Ward, and Deebo laughing it up. It seemed like they were into it.
Oh, it seemed like they were more laughing at Brandon Aiyuk, not really thinking about what he was doing. I like the idea of this team rallying behind Trey as their QB2.
He's been here for 3 years now, been here longer than Sam Darnold. They've seen him more than Sam Darnold.
I think it's the natural way that the team should feel.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Well, do you think that, by Trey Lance's play, you can make an argument he shouldn't be quarterback 2 on certain days, and some days you can argue he should be quarterback 2. Some fans might think he should be quarterback 1. But as the team who's never truly rallied behind him, could this be more about, I'm not saying Brandon Aiyuk is going to go into Shanahan's office and say, make Trey Lance quarterback 2, but they've known him for 3 years now. Are they finally getting behind Trey Lance of being I don't want to say starting quarterback, but a member of the team? It feels like Trey, it's kind of been like the team, then here's Trey Lance. Now it's Trey Lance, you're part of the team now.
Well, the 510 on the text line says it was way more than Aiyuk celebrating. It was Deebo and the rest of the team. I might have missed it.
You're buzzing, Mark.
I left that part out. I did see Deebo and Moody Ward, you're right, on the sideline laughing. I didn't Aiyuk was the only one that ran onto the field, right? Or did I miss it?
I think it was just Aiyuk.
Right?
Yes.
They were having fun on the sideline, but that's nothing new.
No.
Aiyuk was the only one who ran down the sideline in street clothes, which he was wearing like his warm-ups,
yeah,
and ran into the end zone to celebrate and got the penalty. I mean, it's a moment.
But does that send a message to Shanahan of like, hey, we're rallying behind Trey Lance?
No.
Sam is fine. We like him, whatever. He's a competent quarterback. He can be 10 to 15 for 85 yards and 1 touchdown, whatever. But as a person, as a friend, as someone who's been in this room that we've gone through the gauntlet with 3 years now, we've grown with as a player, that, hey, like, we are behind Trey Lance now. We don't really know Sam very well. We know Trey like our best friend.
I don't think that's what that message is.
Okay.
I think Kyle Shanahan has built up enough of a relationship with the locker room that he can have those kinds of conversations. And I think he has a pulse on the locker room. Like last offseason, around this time, it was around week 2 of the preseason when really the idea to bring Jimmy back actually came to fruition. And remember, he had all of these conversations with, team leaders like, hey, is this something we can do? I don't think Kyle Shanahan is scared of having those kinds of conversations with his leaders in the locker room and be like, hey, how you feeling about Trey? Like, what do you think? Should he be our QB too? Like, if something, I don't think he's afraid of having those kinds of conversations. So I don't necessarily feel like the 49ers, Brandon Aiyuk company, feel like they need to send a message to Kyle in this regard, because I feel like it's a relatively open locker room and they can have those conversations privately with each other off to the side.
Okay. Maybe it just means or maybe it stands out more because it is Brandon Aiyuk. And it's not like a Ronnie Bell or a Camelatu. It's not a D Winters. It is a team's star receiver who wants a big contract. And I'm not saying he's going to go in and advocate for, Trey better be the first string quarterback or I'm out of here. It's like, okay, Brandon, be quiet. Like, shut up. I'm the head coach. I make the decisions here. But it did feel like I feel like I will never see this team do that for Sam Darnold.
That's fair, and they shouldn't, because you're right. I mean, this is
the
Sam's
whole year.
Yeah,
I couldn't see him doing
Sam
that.
Darnold. They know Trey Lance.
Okay.
And whether or not they feel like Trey Lance is a better option as QB2, whether or not, just throw that out the window. Trey Lance has been through a lot the last 2.5 years. And it's one thing to think one guy is a better quarterback than the other. It's also another thing just to have human empathy and feel for the dude, because he's been through a ton. I think it's more so that, like, I'm going to go celebrate my good friend because he has been through hell the last 2.5 years, and he just led a great drive to get us within 2 points late in the fourth quarter. Yes, it's a preseason game, whatever. He had a great moment. I'm going to go help him celebrate. I think that's what it was for me. It's nothing more than that.
Okay. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I'm just excited to see Trey Lance play well and to see a player like Brandon Aiyuk go out there.
Hey,
and
I'm
like,
excited too.
You're my boy.
It put
right?
a smile on my face.
Okay. I just wanted to ask the question because the text line's been asking it too, and I feel like we had to address that. Why did Brandon Aiyuk go on the field and celebrate his guy Trey Lance? To some fans, it felt like something more, and I think we needed to address that right here.
We'll see. Maybe it keeps developing. We'll see. But let's see what Kyle Shanahan thought about that. Yeah, I am guessing he was not too happy that Brandon Aiyuk cost himself 15 yards.
No, I didn't, but I know they felt pretty stupid right when it happened. I was pretty pissed, but it's the preseason, and they were excited. Their boy scored, so they're excited for him. But, yeah, that cost us an attempt at a two-point conversion. Oh, we attempted it still, but it's not high percentage from the 17. But I told him in the locker room it was genius because it led to us being able to go for the win at the end. So it worked out for him in the long run.
Their boy. He called Trey Lance their boy.
All I heard was it was genius. All I heard.
He called Trey Lance their boy. That means something, right?
Finally accepted, Mark. He's one of the guys. He's a San Francisco 49er now.
Oh, God. All right, let's hear more from Kyle Shanahan. Let's hear more from Kyle Shanahan. You're listening to Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you. Let us know your thoughts on the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570. Also hit us up on the YouTube and Twitch chat, youtube.com/957 The Game and twitch.tv/957 The Game. Kyle Shanahan asked post-game, why did he play Brock Purdy today? Let's find out. Here's Kyle.
He's just been doing a good job in practice. He's been, when we started out, I didn't think I'd go to the third game, but just after the week of practice, I wanted to get him out there with the starters, most of them at least, and the goal was to get him one drive. Told him if we went 3 and out, wasn't sure what I would do, but I was glad to get a long one.
Yeah, long drive. Brock Purdy ends today The really nice stat line, 4 for 5, 65 yards, had a couple of nice completions, just dump offs to Deebo Samuel, who does what he does, and took him for long gains. Had a nice slant to Brandon Aiyuk, a nice throw over the top of the defense to Juwan Jennings as well, 4 for 5, 65 yards. Shanahan summed up Brock Purdy's performance postgame.
I thought he did real good. I mean, all the plays that he had, he made, and I don't think he had a bad one. That sack, that wasn't busted a protection, and we'll see if he could have done anything about it and got rid of it. You always try your hardest to get rid of it because once you get sacked there, it's tough to score, but it don't look like there was much you could do live.
Yeah, he's talking about that one sack that Brock Purdy took towards the end of that drive in the red zone. He actually evaded pressure for a while, almost broke out of it. There were a couple of guys running at him, ultimately took the sack. Maybe he could have thrown it away, but he was still in the pocket if memory serves, so it would have been grounding. A difficult one there, but all in all, I mean, I agree with what Shanahan said. He passed every test for me.
He was stellar. All the questions of, what's he going to look like when he comes back? Is there going to be, some timidness? Is he going to be willing to let it rip? And it looked like Brock Purdy had not practiced for months and months and months. It looked like he hadn't been hurt. But I'm also happy he took a few hits, because there always is that concern. If you take a hit and can I get back up? How does my body feel after I get sacked or tackled, by a guy who has 120, 130, 140 pounds on me from a linebacker or a defensive end? Like, how am I going to feel? And right back up, next play, Brock Purdy is going to be fine. Took a big hit. He's back in the pocket. Brock Purdy is ready to go for week 1.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. The other big storyline before Trey Lance stepped in the fourth quarter and started playing great football and led this team to a comeback win, it was, why the hell is Sam Darnold getting multiple drives in the third quarter? I know you and I and Craig were watching the game together here in the studio, and we were both thinking,
where's Trey?
Where the hell is Trey? We need to see Trey play after the way he played last week. You got to get him out there for an extended period of time, at least give him a chance to shake off the cobwebs, give him some confidence. Sam Darnold's been in this league for a while. He has a ton of starts. He knows what it's about. You don't need to see him a ton more. We know what he is. At least we'd like to think we know what he is. We don't really know what Trey Lance is. So, Kyle, why the hell did you play Sam Darnold into the third quarter?
I wanted to give Sam a whole half, just like we gave Trey a whole half last week. Brock had a long first drive. They had a long drive. And Sam's first one went 3 and out, so I felt like he didn't get to even play in the first quarter, except for 3 plays. So the goal was to get him a half, and at the end of the third is when we took him out, I think.
Yeah, end of the third with what, a minute 20 left?
Minute and 22 to be exact.
Yeah.
Almost a fourth quarter.
I mean, he ended up with 5 drives. Trey had 4 drives. Yeah. It wasn't that bad.
But it evened out because Denver's offense just stunk.
Yeah, the Niner defense got 3 and outs in that fourth quarter, which helped them get the ball back and ultimately win the game. So it ultimately didn't really mean all that much in the moment, though.
There was steam coming out of my ears. Where's Trey, Kyle? Where's he at?
Well, and we were pump faked on Twitter multiple times, following along here from in the studio in San Francisco to the action going on in Santa Clara. Trey Lance is warming up on the sideline. He's going to come in here to start
so was Brandon Allen.
Brandon Allen also warming up, and then guess what? Sam Darnold came out and opened up the third quarter. I do think ultimately probably the right decision from Kyle Shanahan. They did split up the reps relatively evenly between Darnold and Lance, and if you were to continue to give Darnold another drive, his last drive was by far his best drive as well. He wasn't bad early.
He's fine.
Not at all. He was fine. It wasn't jump off the page oh my God, this guy's really good. He didn't have a throw like he did last preseason game to Ronnie Bell down the right sideline from his own end zone, where he put it perfectly over the shoulder into the arms of Ronnie Bell for a 40-yard gain. He didn't have that kind of play today, especially early in his action. But his last drive, the 5th drive, the 2nd drive of the third quarter, I thought was by far his best drive. So it was good that Shanahan decided to give him extra drives and that he responded with a really nice drive, because otherwise I felt like you might have left this performance from Sam Darnold thinking, all right, I needed a little bit more from you, but he put together a good final drive and rewarded Shanahan's decision to give him that last drive.
And they were 5 for 6, 58 yards and a touchdown. It's very similar to what Trey Lance did with his, good 6 drive or 6-play stretch where, okay, you're kind of backed against the wall in a sense of you haven't really done too much early. You would like to end strong, and all three quarterbacks ended strong today. Sam Darnold, who I think many fans don't really want him to be part of this quarterback room, I think has put together two strong performances today, being his best of the two. But to end the way he did, to kind of find himself in a position where, okay, like I can just kind of coast. If I'm not too great and I'm not too bad and I'm just mediocre, I'm vanilla as vanilla can be, I'll win the quarterback 2 job. But to end the way he did today, again, being 5 for 6, 58 yards and a touchdown, like that's stuff to make Shanahan buy into you. Okay, like you can do this. There's a reason you're here. There's a reason I brought you in to be, quarterback 2, quarterback 3. And I think for him, it's in a new offense, kind of prove to himself, okay, like maybe my ghosts are behind me. Maybe with when I have Deebo and I have George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, it looks even better. I think for Sam, we heard in the middle of training camp, I'm still learning the playbook. To go out there and do what he did today, I'm not saying he mastered it, but it does feel like Sam Darnold's getting this under him and kind of feeling more confident in the pocket and in the offense.
So I think we both agree the battle for QB2 got closer tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yes, by far.
Yeah, Sam Darnold wasn't bad by any stretch. He was good. Trey Lance absolutely flashed, though, particularly in the last 3 drives of the game for the 49ers. But my question for you is, and let us know on the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570. Let us know as well on YouTube and Twitch. Who do you think is the better fit for QB2? Because I think there's a mold that you want your QB2 to be, right? I think Trey Lance represents high risk, high reward, right? He has a wide range of outcomes. We've seen it already in the preseason. He was really not good against the Raiders. He was fantastic in the fourth quarter tonight. But out of your QB2, you want a little bit more consistency. You want someone who will go in there in a key moment, if it's just for one drive, if it's for a whole game, if it's for 2 weeks. You want someone who's not going to make the back-breaking mistake. And I know it's a little bit ironic me saying that about Sam Darnold because he has a propensity to make the back-breaking mistake. But of these 2 quarterbacks, Sterling, my opinion is, I think, Sam Darnold is more of the normal cookie-cutter QB2. Trey Lance doesn't really quite fit that mold. Doesn't mean that Trey Lance can't win the QB2 spot, but if you were to try to fit these 2 guys into the cookie-cutter QB2, I think Darnold fits that mold a little bit more than Trey Lance does.
You want your ham and cheese. You want your easy, it's my go-to lunch. It's not going to hurt me, not going to fail me. It's always going to be there. It's not going to make the big mistake. It'll keep me in a ball game. Let my defense do the work. Let my stars, Deebo, Kittle, Aiyuk, let them do the work. And it's kind of, in a sense, dink and dunk your way to a win. Don't be the reason we lose this game.
Yeah.
Whereas Sam Darnold, I get it, in his history, in his past, he's been a big reason why the Jets and Panthers have lost some games. But
these 2 preseason games, he's done everything that the Niners would want him to do. Just make the simple play in front of you.
He's been the quarterback to go out there and to look like that ham and cheese sandwich, that cookie cutter backup quarterback that, hey, like I'm not going to throw bad interceptions. His pick tonight wasn't bad. He didn't throw a bad pick last game. Like he's not turned the ball over in camp. I believe he's thrown maybe 1 or 2 picks in training camp as a whole and none in practice so far. Or 1 today, but it's not his fault today, right? So, but for Trey's kind of like that pastrami where it can be good one day, but depending on where you get it, it's not that great and your stomach hurts afterwards. You're like, oh my goodness, like I need to go to the bathroom. And so, yes, there's a lot to like from Trey Lance, but Trey Lance is more prone to be the reason you lose a game than win it right now. And for Sam, he'll keep you in the game to let your other guys win it for you.
Now, if you were, okay, this is an interesting conversation. If you were playing, like, say you had to start one guy for a whole season.
I'd pick Trey.
I would too, because you have the ability to grow and develop over the course of a year. And say you just, in 2 parallel universes, right? You play Sam Darnold for a whole season as the quarterback of this team with the same roster, and you play Trey Lance as the quarterback of this team with the same roster. Sam Darnold probably wins more games early.
Yeah.
But the 49ers are probably a better team at the end of the year on the Trey Lance universe.
I agree.
Because Trey Lance has time to develop, right?
Yes. I think we have seen with more reps, Trey Lance improves. Against the Raiders last week, he wasn't great, but you can see later in that game, got more comfortable, felt more confident, still made mistakes, but you can kind of feel it starting to come out of the pocket and feel more better about himself. And today, started a little shaky early, but more reps he got, the better he was. Against the Texans in 2 years ago, bad first half, second half much better. I think I think both teams, like, they might win 12 games apiece or 10 games apiece, but you may win 8 of those early with Sam, whereas for Trey, you might win 8 of those later in the season, go into the playoffs going, okay, like, we got something here. We're rolling to go into the playoffs.
But then the flip side is, but you need to win just one game right now.
Sam Darnold.
You feel better with Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Craig, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say, when it comes to your backup quarterback, you want that person to come in and get you a split. So if your quarterback goes down, 4 games, you want him to come win 2, at least win 2 for me. I mean, we've been spoiled here. Our third string comes in, wins 8. So we're a little spoiled here. But at the end of the day, like we talked about it, early in that trailer, he could have had 2 picks easily. And in a game in the season, that's some Nick Mullen stuff where you're going really good and all of a sudden you throw your second pick and the game ends. So I would take, if it was just a guy that can get me 2 wins and get me a split, give me Sam Darnold because he can hand the ball off, he can check down, he can move the last game. He ain't going to score 35 points, but you don't need it with this defense.
Yeah, 100%. And you don't have to make a ton of crazy plays at the quarterback position when you have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk and George Kittle. And we still have an hour left in overtime. But by the way, Deebo Samuel, explosive. My goodness. 2 passes, the first 2 catches of the game, catches him at the line of scrimmage and takes him for what, like 40 yards after the catch?
2 catches, 39 yards, 19.5 yards a catch.
Man. I told you on pregame today, I think he's going to have a gigantic season. I know this 2 catches doesn't mean much, but
still,
he
like,
looked good.
Physically, Deebo can say all he wants, I'm in the best shape of my life, and he looks that, though. He looks like he's thinner but more explosive, yet still has that aggressive mentality of, I'm going to knock you on your butt. And you're just going to take it.
He's a bowling ball, man.
He's it's like a Mack truck hitting you at 45, 60 miles an hour, and you can't do anything, and he's gone and by you for 45 yards for a touchdown. He's so, there is no one else like Deebo Samuel in the NFL. Nobody.
He's incredibly unique, and he's a ton of fun to watch, and I'm so excited to watch him. Hopefully, knock on wood, he has a healthy season here for the 49ers because he is one of the more electric, most exciting players to watch in this league. All right, time for a break here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. 1 hour left. Let us know your thoughts. 888-957-9570 on the Xfinity mobile text line. The texts are rolling in right now. There's a fun one that I want to get to on the other side. Also, let us know what you think on YouTube and on Twitch. 1 hour of overtime left. You're listening to Overtime with Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett right here on 95.7 The Game.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right. Y'all gotta try.
1 hour left. Hit us up. Let us know your thoughts after the 49ers come out on top 21-20. 888-957-9570 is the Xfinity mobile text line. That highlight you just heard, courtesy of the Denver Broncos radio network. That was the low light for Trey Lance tonight. The interception on a screen pass. Didn't get it up over the leaping defensive lineman, turned into a tip drill interception, but he bounced back fantastic after that. Finishes the night 12 of 18, 173 yards and a touchdown to go with that one interception. But an incredible fourth quarter for Trey Lance. Leads the Niners on 3 scoring drives in the fourth quarter, including a perfectly executed 2-minute drill to lead to the Jake Moody 32-yard game-winning field goal as time expires. Again, you're listening to Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you. And Sterling, we have a little bit of news to pass along. Kyle Shanahan speaking with the media a little bit ago after the game, saying the starters will play next week in preseason game number 3. A little bit of a surprise.
Short week 2 being a Friday game, so Saturday to Friday.
Friday night game. Man. Well, like 7? Is it 7 o'clock?
I think so.
Don't quote me on that. I'll look it up.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would do that if I was Kyle Shanahan. I don't know if I'd want to put Brock Purdy out there. Again, they could play one drive, but...
It is 7 o'clock, by the way.
Man, that's such a weird...
It's high school football.
Yeah, what?
Friday Night Lights.
But how much would you play Brock Purdy in that game?
A drive.
Same thing as tonight.
Yeah.
So why play him at all?
It's a good question.
Like, what is the point? Like, what is he going to gain after already getting back on the field for one drive tonight? What is he going to gain from a second one-drive performance against the Chargers?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he would gain more from playing 2 drives in one game and none in the other, right?
Right.
Like one drive here, like 5 snaps here, and then 5 snaps 6 days later. I don't really know how much that helps. But.
Well, then are we going to see Trent Williams? Are we going to see George Kittle, who is kind of injured right now? That's why he didn't play today. Yeah, so which starters are going to play? All of them? Some of them? Which ones?
I don't think Trent Williams, George Kittle, and McCaffrey are playing.
Well, I wouldn't play Deebo or Aiyuk either. I wouldn't play any starters.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this.
Do it.
Although it was really interesting the way Kyle Shanahan talked about it this week, saying, like, what was it, on Wednesday? Oh, there's a chance that Brock Purdy and some of the starters play. But I don't remember exactly how he phrased it. He said something along the lines of, but, like, don't quote me on that. Like, I reserve the right to change my mind.
Right.
So maybe he changes his mind on this too. Who knows? But for him to say it post-game today makes me feel like this has been the plan all along, that they're going to play him in preseason game number 3.
So then Friday is the dress rehearsal, per se. Not tonight.
Maybe.
Or today.
What do you think, Craig? What's up?
Well, that's the way it used to be back in before we had 4 preseason games. That third game was you always played a half. You just played that first half.
And you punt on the 4th game.
Exactly. And everybody, it was the guys that were bagging groceries that showed up game 4.
Robert Aguayo.
It's Robert Aguayo, exactly. So I think you're probably going to see him at least a quarter, maybe halfway through the. If he goes out and goes two drives, 2 TDs, put a hat on, it's been real. But, like I say, I think those 2 drives really would depend on what they do, how they finish those drives.
A whole quarter of Brock Purdy in a meaningless game.
Meaningless? You care so much.
You want to win. but like for Brock Purdy, it's rather meaningless. Like why? I know the 707, getting in rhythm, I get that. But then why play tonight and just play a whole quarter on Friday?
Yeah, from the 707 on the Xfinity mobile text line, you can hit us up 888-957-9570. 707 says, for the starters, it's about getting in a rhythm to play a football game week after week. I get that, but how much of a rhythm are you getting in by playing a drive? Now, maybe Craig's right. They play a whole quarter next week, but you play just one drive this week. I guess it's the process of warming up and getting your pads on and, hearing the national anthem and all that and like getting used to it. But I don't know how much one drive really helps that.
But even go to the defense. I would not want to see Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead and maybe if Nick Bosa's back playing a full quarter. No, please don't. Like, we're paying you a lot of money to be in playoff games, not preseason games.
Eric Armstead, please don't. Your injury issues last year. We need you out there in the regular season, buddy.
And knowing that Javon Kinlaw didn't play because he was sick tonight, and Kerry Hyder got hurt tonight, and Drake Jackson's been hurt. Taco Charlton is on IR now, and Robert Beal Jr. is hurt, and Kalia Davis is still hurt, and you're kind of reeling on the defensive line. Why would you risk playing, if they're going to play all the starters, why would you risk playing them for a full quarter? You want to be healthy going into the year, and by all means, it's one quarter. You should be able to last that long, but we've seen the defensive lines depleted right now. I would not want to risk that whatsoever.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Of course, we'll keep you updated throughout the week here on 95.7 The Game. Let's hear from Brock Purdy. I promised it earlier. Brock Purdy, post-game at the podium talking with the media. Obviously, his first preseason action, his first in-game action since the NFC Championship game in late January when he popped his UCL ligament in his right elbow. Him talking about getting out there on the field for the first time since then.
Felt really good just to be out there with the guys in a game environment. Obviously, just get the nerves out a little bit, just the build up to a game and everything, and then being able to, get an early completion to Deebo and get things rolling. So it felt really good, be able to get out there, drive, and honestly just be in a game, environment, like I said. So, yeah, I'm excited about it.
And then he had the moment on that first drive, his only drive of the game, where, again, he did finish the game 4 for 5 passing with 65 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, where he was facing a third down after taking a sack, and they were down in the red zone, and he was facing pressure again, rolled left, looking to throw, but ultimately decided to tuck it and run. And there was a moment he had about 5 yards left to gain, and he was left with a decision, Sterling. Either turn left and go out of bounds, not get the first down, but save himself from getting hit, or cut to the right, try to get the first down.
Save yourself. No.
And get hit. He ultimately decided to cut to the right, get hit, and he ended up being 2 yards short of the first down. And he said, quote, we'll listen to it, but he said, quote, it was great to get that first hit.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, it was good to be able to, drive and then, be able to take some hits and, get right up and run a play again after that. So it's part of the game, and honestly, it helps me, sort of settle into the game. And so thought it was pretty good to be able to go through that.
I guess that's the only way it makes sense, right? Like,
feels good, baby.
Feels good. Not feels great?
Yeah, feels good.
I guess, that makes sense. Obviously, I never want my quarterback to take a hit, but if you haven't played in game action and forever you're coming off of an injury, you want to prove to yourself that, hey, I can do this again. Okay, take a hit, but it's not going to help my nerves at all watching him get hit like that when he could have just walked out of bounds.
Well, any quarterback, it's like, okay, like, slide, get down. Like, that was the thing with Trey in his first season. He didn't know how to slide. And so for Trey, a big body guy, it's like, please slide. Like, you're going to get knocked out. And he did get hurt. It took a beating. And for Purdy, who's much smaller than Trey Lance, who I get it, he's a feisty guy who wants to fight for every single yard. And, hey, Brock, just out of bounds is so much safer and nicer. Just step out of bounds 1 yard to your left and everything's just fine.
Well, that's kind of the one thing I think you could point to last year during his run where maybe he would try to make magic happen a little bit too much, right?
Running to his left and running back to his right and spinning in circles and doing ballerina twirls and finding guys open somehow.
There was that famous play, the Seahawks playoff game, right? Where he ultimately ran around in the backfield for like 15 seconds, it felt like, managed to avoid multiple big hits and sacks, and threw a pearl right to Brandon Aiyuk, who dropped it in the end zone. Would have been the highlight of the year, the highlight of the decade for the 49ers. Ultimately, it was a drop for Aiyuk, unfortunately. But I think what a lot of people forget is at the end of that play, he took a shot.
Yes.
Brock Purdy did. A shot. Like, oh my God, he got hit hard. I think if there's one area that Kyle Shanahan has probably identified and talked to him about, it's, hey, we got to be a little safer at times. So this one play, whatever, it's your first game back. But I think that is an area of emphasis for Brock Purdy this year. It's, let's be a little bit safer. I know we feel like we've got a couple of guys behind you that we can survive with.
Right.
But you're our guy, and we can't afford you getting hurt.
Well, that's exactly what happened to Garoppolo in 2018. Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City, granted an actual game that matters in the regular season, but fighting for an extra yard, trying to get the comeback, and what you do?
You love that mindset, but you just got to be smarter than that.
Don't risk snapping your ACL or tearing your UCL because you want to fight for an extra yard. And I get that game in 2018 meant a lot more than this one did, but hey, Brock, we'd rather not have to play Sam Darnold, not have to play Trey Lance, not have to play Brandon Allen if we need to this year. Like, we want you to be the starting quarterback all year long. You probably give us our best chance to win. Step out of bounds. It's okay. Give up on a play. It's fine.
Yeah.
Live to fight another downer play.
All right, more Purdy here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. You can hit us up on the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570. Brock Purdy was asked about Trey Lance and what he saw from potentially his backup quarterback out there tonight.
Oh, it was awesome seeing him being able to finish and put a game-winning drive together, set up Moody for the game-winning kick. We all want to see him succeed and do great. So to be able to go out there and just chip away, honestly. And then he put together, 2 great drives at the end. So it was awesome to see. Really excited for him.
He said everyone wants to see him succeed and play well. You pair that with what Kyle Shanahan said, calling Trey Lance the team's guy, right? Like his boy out there. I think it brings up something interesting. We touched on it a little bit last hour, and there's a couple of texts that I think bring up some interesting points as well. This is from the 209. Dylan, he attached his name to it. The team understands that Sam is a professional, but Lance is their boy. I think they will play harder. I was at the game. Everyone cheered for Lance as a fan base. We want to win or lose a bit with Lance if Brock goes down, at least for a game. Again, that's Dylan, the 209 on the Xfinity mobile text line. We're talking about how the team feels about him. I think clearly they love him as a person. That's never been in question.
Right.
The question has always been, how do they feel about him as a quarterback? I don't think there's a question about Brock v. Trey within the team.
No.
But there's certainly, I think, a conversation about Brock v. Sam Darnold within the team. They clearly have more of an emotional connection to Trey Lance. And what is 100% obvious, Sterling, listening to Niner fans, hearing them all week here on 95.7 The Game, when you're down there at training camp, and some of them are open to the public as well, and you can hear how they react and cheer. And as Dylan said here on the Xfinity mobile text line, the crowd cheering for Trey Lance, it is 100% evidently clear the fan base prefers Trey Lance over Sam Darnold, which shouldn't surprise anyone. No. But there is this sense that there's a feeling within the fan base that there's no way that Trey Lance can be worse than Sam Darnold, because we know what Sam Darnold is, and he has struggled a lot in his career. It feels like there is a love for Trey Lance, and there's a portion who think that he should play over Brock Purdy as well, which I think, frankly, is just misinformed. But there's, I think, 100% of people, maybe not 100, but a lot of them who think if there is something that happens to Brock Purdy, Trey Lance should be the first man up. He should be QB2 over Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold, 55 interceptions and 55 starts? Like something like, it's not good. It's not a good number.
Every time Trey Lance has stepped foot on that field, whether it's starting a game or relieving a quarterback in a preseason game or even in a regular season game, you can notably and audibly hear the crowd through the TV cheering for him, because there is this awe factor in the fan base that says, what is Trey Lance? We want to see this kid play. We want to see what he can do. There is high potential here. Sure, the fan base can feel that way. I want to see Trey Lance prove he's worth that 3rd overall pick 2-3 years ago. Now, is the awe still there for Kyle Shanahan? I truly don't think so. I don't think Kyle Shanahan's sitting back saying there's still this, this magic factor or this kind of, again, this awe behind Trey Lance. That's kind of gone. There is no sparkle next to his name anymore here's a gold star, right? For Sam Darnold, I think Kyle Shanahan likes Sam Darnold far more than many people think he does. And I think he likes Sam Darnold obviously much more than the fan base does. Unfortunately, for the fan base, Sam Darnold is seemingly kind of holding on to the quarterback 2 job. Now, to how much we will see come cut day. But the fan base, they understandably want to see Trey Lance. This team banked on him being the guy. They got rid of a guy who was really successful here. Now, didn't win the big one, but was really successful here. The team loved him. The fan base loved him. Like, he revitalized San Francisco 49er football. And you said, that's not good enough. Losing in the biggest game of the year isn't good enough. We want more. That's fine. That makes so much sense. And for the fan base to sit back and say, well, we have this guy here we don't know much about, being Trey Lance, and let's see what he can do. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to see what Trey Lance can do. I think that's where this is now, where the magic, the awe has worn off from Kyle Shanahan towards Trey Lance, but the fan base is saying that still exists for us. That's not gone from us. Trey Lance, to us, being the fans, is still a 3rd overall pick. He still is that, quote unquote need should be franchise quarterback. Still has the awesome arm. He's a young kid. He's youthful. He can do so many things. His legs, look like he can be a star with them. Like, there's still this magic next to Trey Lance's name from the fan base. Kyle Shanahan, not so much.
Okay, so let's say something happens to Brock Purdy. Knock on wood. Of course, you don't want that to happen, but let's say it does. Whether it's a game, 2 games, whatever, more serious than that, doesn't really matter in this hypothetical. Let's assume Kyle Shanahan brings out Sam Darnold.
They're going to boo.
I think they will.
But here, let's say they boo him.
Honestly, I think they will.
But they win the game still. What happens then? Is it still Trey Lance should have played? Why didn't you play Trey, Kyle? Kyle was like, I won the game with the guy.
Honestly, I think yes.
But isn't that kind of lunacy?
Yes, but I think yes. That's where we are.
But so if Kyle Shanahan has theoretically moved on in his brain, he obviously wants Brock Purdy over Trey Lance right now, based on what Purdy has done. Why are we so determined to Trey Lance needs to play?
I don't think he's moved on in his brain.
You don't think so?
No. I think at least coming into today, he was like, all right, I think Sam Darnold's the leader in the clubhouse, as I think most of us felt. I don't think he's moved on. I don't think he's made a decision yet. I think ultimately he plans on keeping all three guys.
So do I.
And if you're keeping all three guys, like on a week-to-week basis, does it really matter who's QB2 officially? Do we even know officially who's QB2?
Well, the one thing you don't want is, let's say, come week 3 against the Giants, Brock Purdy goes down, and you go, hey, Kyle, who's quarterback 2? I'm just going to pick on the fly who it is, and we'll figure it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, he has a decision made.
Right.
But there's a reality in which he never has to actually publicize that decision.
Unless Purdy goes down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only reason he has to.
Which many fans assume is inevitable.
But, like, we could be at week 10, right?
Okay.
And Kyle Shanahan has made his decision. It's been Sam Darnold all along. But the fan base believes it's Trey Lance because we haven't been told otherwise, right? Like, there's a world in which he doesn't...
You're right.
He makes the decision. It's the decision the fan base doesn't like, but no one actually knows because he hasn't had to make that decision in a game yet.
But doesn't the depth chart have to release?
Yeah, I guess.
So, like, wouldn't that be the indication of, okay, I have picked one of these guys to be Brock Purdy's backup?
I don't know, man.
Sometimes I just hate the fact that there are 3 quarterbacks here in San Francisco. Like, why can't we just be, I don't know, like, why can't we just be the Jets, or why can't we just be the Dolphins?
Don't.
I'd rather be the Jets right now with their quarterbacks in San Francisco.
You'd rather have Aaron...
Yes. Yes. And that's not me saying the person. I'm just saying the quarterback situation. I'd rather have a failed Zach Wilson who hasn't been very good and have a franchise veteran quarterback who's won a Super Bowl and won 2 MVPs in a row, and Aaron Rodgers and Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Sam Darnold. Like, why wouldn't you want that?
Aaron Rodgers was terrible last year.
You have 3 unproven quarterbacks here in San Francisco, essentially, right? You think you know what you have in Brock. Darnold is... You hope he's better than what he has been in the past in the system. And Trey's this big question mark of, you have not been good. You really haven't done anything, but we hope the magic, we hope you can still be good. You know what you're getting in Aaron Rodgers. You're getting a guy with precision passing.
I don't know what I'm getting in Aaron Rodgers.
He might be high half the time and in dark closets meditating, but he's going to be...
He was so bad last year, Sterling.
You're getting a former MVP that seems to be refocused. Again, separate the person from the player.
I am. He was a terrible football player last year.
He did not want to be in Green Bay. I would much rather have the Jets quarterback room than this one right now.
We're swapping rooms, like quarterback room for quarterback room.
Flip it exactly. I'd much rather have the Jets room.
That's interesting.
Simply because you know who your quarterback one is. No one out there in New York is like, you have to play Zach Wilson. No one is saying that. Because you have a bona fide QB1. San Francisco thinks they have that, and I want Purdy to be that.
Are you saying this for the sake of all of our sanity or for the sake of the football team?
Both. Both.
I agree for the sake of our sanity. It would be nice to just not have to have
You'd rather have Brock Purdy over Aaron Rodgers right now.
I don't know what I want.
Interesting.
Sam, I don't think...
And I love Brock Purdy, don't get me wrong.
I don't think you understand how terrible Aaron Rodgers was last year.
Great person? Probably not. But I do think as a football player, like, Aaron Rodgers has won with so much worse in his life than San Francisco has now. You put Aaron Rodgers right now on this team,
maybe.
Like, they are the favorite to win the Super Bowl right now, bar none, top 5 quarterback in the NFL, at least on paper. And for our sanity, it's no one saying, play Zach Wilson, play Mike White, please. Like, no one's saying that.
Well, yeah, of course not. But
like, why wouldn't you want that?
I want it for the sake of my sanity, yes. I just don't know what's the best decision for our football team. I don't know. It's a tough one. We should mention, we failed to do it to this point, the Niners may have suffered a serious injury.
Yeah.
Danny Gray on the, opening kick of the game?
Opening kick, fell on his shoulder. potentially collarbone injury, going to get x-rays and see how severe the injury is, but could be done for the season. Hopefully it's much less than that. But the last thing you want to see is two guys who you think are going to return kicks for you this year be out before the season even starts.
And two guys in your wide receiver core as well. And it's already making the 53-man roster even murkier because we were talking pregame about how you're probably, at least in my opinion, you're probably going to keep 6 wide receivers, which includes Ray McLeod, who's injured, who has to be on the 53-man roster, and then you can transfer him to an injured list.
What if Danny Gray is the exact same way?
I don't know what you do then.
Like, you have to carry 2 guys on IR. Now, if it's like a broken collarbone done for the year, different question, right? But
yes. If it's like a 4 weeks.
What if you have to carry 2 guys?
Then you're keeping 6 total wide receivers, but 2 of them are going to be injured. So you're only going to have 4 active wide receivers on your initial 53-man, but you're going to hope whoever you cut makes it through waivers and you can pick him back up and add him again.
That sucks. Just putting it bluntly, like, that's not good.
Not good at all.
Because, so who do you carry? You carry Deebo, Aiyuk, and Jennings, and then Conley, Ronnie Bell, Willie
Deebo,
Snead.
Aiyuk, Jennings, and...
You would assume Ronnie Bell after tonight, right?
I think Ronnie Bell has the leg up on that competition. Yeah. I think it would be the 3 starters and Ronnie Bell. You hope Willie Snead, Chris Conley, whoever makes it through waivers, and you can add them back in. And while Ray McLeod and Danny Gray get healthy, you bring them back and you can add them onto the 53-man roster that way. But you have to hope that they make it through waivers. Otherwise, you're going to have to add someone else some other way.
Danny Gray and Trey Lance, almost the exact same career trajectory if he's out for the entire year.
Don't bring that up.
I'm just saying, like, 2 young guys who have high potential who are going to potentially be out for the year, maybe not be in Danny Gray's case, but that, man, like, the receiver room is screwed.
Yeah, really.
When it comes to depth, not the stars.
Really, the only bad news from today, Danny Gray, a potentially serious injury. What do you say? Shoulder?
Shoulder/collarbone. They're not sure yet.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that. When we do know, we won't hear anything tonight, most likely, but we'll keep you updated throughout the week, of course, on 95.7 The Game. Going to be interesting because you have roster crunches going on at other positions. You can't afford to add another wide receiver. 6 wide receivers is a lot in the first place. 2 of those guys are going to be injured. Maybe it makes it easier if Danny Gray is a season injury because you can put him on season-ending IR now. You don't want that to happen, but it would save you a little bit of roster flexibility. But we'll, of course, keep that in mind, and we'll break it all down as we do get that information. Time now, though, for one final break. We have one segment coming up on the other side. We'll talk about some of the other stars of this game. Ronnie Bell, some good, some bad. We'll talk about him, others as well. It's overtime. 30 more minutes here on 95.7 The Game. Sterling Bennett, Mark Randy, Craig Valentino coming back after this. You're listening to Overtime on 95.7 The Game.
Who wants to talk about low testosterone and ED? How about impotence?
chip away at, trying to take away from, the mistakes at practice and feel, not perfect, but, get close to it. And so I want to be able to practice consistent and, come week one, be ready to rip it. So we're getting there.
Now back to overtime on 95.7 The Game.
Just rip it. Rip it. Rip it. Brock Purdy, you ripped it today. He was good in one drive for the 49ers against the Broncos, 4 for 5, 65 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions on his one drive, led the team down for 3 points. Jake Moody chip shot, 20-yard field goal. Moody made 3 field goals, did miss an extra point, oddly enough, but the 49ers win 21-20. Purdy started it off. Sam Darnold played really the middle half of the game. Trey Lance played the very end of the third quarter and all of the fourth quarter and led the 49ers to 3 scoring drives in the fourth and led them to a 21-20 victory over the over the Denver Broncos for the San Francisco 49ers. But you just heard from Brock Purdy talking about not being worried about his practice interception numbers. We talked about it on the kickoff show earlier today, Sterling. That's your opportunity to see what you got, to test things out, see what your limits are. He gets in a game and he does what he does best. Give it to your playmakers, make the smart play, avoid turnovers, avoid sacks as best you can. And that's what made Brock Purdy and the Niners team successful last year. So, I think it's easy to see, he threw 3 interceptions today in practice. It's easy to see that, react to that, and be like, is he healthy? Is he fully there? Like, what's going on? But I think it's important to keep in mind, practice is when you are trying to find your limits. Brock Purdy has given us no reason in games to worry that he's going to become a high turnover guy.
When did we start taking practice interceptions as like why does it matter? Like, when Dan Marino was leading the Dolphins and probably throwing a ton of picks in practice, taking so many chances, but he was one of, if not the best quarterback in the NFL during his career, no one was like, Dan Marino threw 5 picks in practice. Oh my goodness, bench him for the backup quarterback. Like, no one was doing that stuff. Like,
I think it only matters when there is...
do I make fun of Dak Prescott? Yeah, it's Dak Prescott for throwing 5 picks in the practice. But when Brock Purdy does it, just forget it all about it.
I think, Dak Prescott's an interesting case because I feel like there's not many Dak Prescott fans out there, even within the Cowboys fandom.
Cowboy fans hate Dak Prescott. We love him because he can't win a playoff game, but I digress.
Yeah, back-to-back seasons, their year ends at the helm.
Well, the same way the first half ended tonight was almost the same way the game ended in the playoffs.
By the way, Jair Brown, a big tackle there at the end of that one. If you missed it,
he saved 2 touchdowns so far in 2 games.
Yeah, you're right. He has. Very end of the first half, Broncos in possession. They hit a big pass down the left sideline. It was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was in coverage.
Ambry
Thomas, you're right. He got beat down the field, missed a tackle, kind of collided with Isaiah Oliver. They were already behind the play. They weren't making the tackle, but they kind of awkwardly collided, and the wide receiver ran down the sideline, broke one more tackle, kind of cut back inside to get to the end zone with like 15 seconds left. And Jair Brown tackled him at the half-yard line. Mm-hmm. If it's a regular season game, they probably stop the clock and review to see if he got in. It was ruled that he was down just shy of the goal line. The Broncos a little bit slow getting to the offense or getting to the line and to snap the ball and spike it. They don't get the snap off in time. Half is over. So Jair Brown, the rookie safety out of Penn State, a nice play, tackled him, saved a touchdown, saved you 7 points. Without that, Niners probably don't win this ball game.
He's already making game-saving plays in the first half. Mark, start him over to Sean Gibson right now.
He started today.
Might start next week, too.
Maybe. We'll see.
What if the starters play and it's Jair Brown?
Oh.
Kyle, what are you doing?
What if the starters play and Nick Bosa isn't there?
Oh. Well, then I'm just sad. Then I'm going, Andre Jackson, Clelin Ferrell, Alex Barrett, Kerry Hyder, Austin Bryant, who actually had a good game today, but that defensive line room is not good or very unproven.
Yes.
Yeah, Nick Bosa, you got your star in there. It makes things a lot easier.
Yeah. All right, we got about 20 minutes left in overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Hit us up. Let us know your thoughts on the Xfinity mobile text line, 888-957-9570. You can also let us know what you think about this performance tonight on the YouTube chat and on Twitch as well. We're keeping an eye on all 3 here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you. Let's focus here for a little bit, Sterling, in our final 20 minutes on the battle at the the wide receiver spot.
Quarterbacks for 3 hours.
Yeah, it's on my mind. Can't you tell? The wide
Brandon
receiver
Allen.
room. And we can also lump in kick returner and punt returner here because they are certainly related. But with the injury to Ray McCloud and now to Danny Gray, we don't know the severity of Danny Gray. He's going to get an x-ray at some point. We'll probably know maybe tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Monday, the result, and we'll probably have a timeline at that point. It makes things really difficult for the 49ers in the wide receiver department now because you have to keep these guys, if they're not going on season IR, you have to keep them on your 53-man roster in order to then put them on like a couple-week injured list, the PUP list, keep them out for 4 weeks, whatever the situation is. So the 49ers have a roster squeeze there. You have Ronnie Bell, a rookie, fighting for a spot, who had a good day today. He had some really good moments, and then he had some really bad moments.
Right.
He had one drop that turned into an interception again, similar to what happened last week against the Raiders. He also had a fumble after a catch. It was recovered by the 49ers, so they avoided a turnover there. But he had a number of really nice catches. He's electric. He breaks tackles. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter already call him like an honorary member of the Yak Bros.
707 right now. He's a Yak Bro.
Yeah, there it is. Ronnie Bell is another Yak Bro. He tends to make those kinds of plays. He's electric with the ball in his hands, but he has some butterfingers as well. He's committed really 2 turnovers, almost a third already in 2 preseason games, but you can't deny the explosiveness and the plays that he has made to help this 49er team so far. It feels like he has an opportunity to earn a roster spot as a wide receiver. What helps him as well is he has potential as a kick and a punt returner. He hasn't fumbled in that regard. One of his competitors for that spot has. Ronnie Bell opening some eyes. Kyle Shanahan upset at some of the turnover plays that he's making, but you can't deny that he's exciting with the ball in his hands. You're watching him. He's breaking tackles. He's running through tacklers. He's kind of small. It kind of surprises me, honestly. He's not this big guy. He doesn't seem like your prototypical wide receiver who's going to break a bunch of tackles. But with the ball in his hands, he's electric. He's fun to watch.
With 7 catches tonight, 114 yards. Arguably made the play of the game. Huge chunk play in the final drive to set up a game-winning field goal for the team. Like, there isn't a lot of separation in his routes. But when he gets the ball, he's kind of a game changer. Now, again, he's playing against third-string defensive backs and second-teamers, right? I get that. But what he's shown on paper and on film thus far has been really impressive. And if you're going to bank on someone playing somewhat of a role on whether it's offense or special teams, out of anybody, it's not Chris Conley and ain't Willie Snead. It's Ronnie Bell. Like, he's been really good. Now, yes, there has been maybe some not so great. He's had 2 balls off his face and his hands the past 2 weeks that have been interceptions. Not good. Had a fumble today that was recovered by the San Francisco 49ers. So there is some turnover proneness by him. But other than that, I think he's been, if not one of the most exciting players and standout players thus far through preseason.
Yeah, here's Kyle Shanahan on his rookie 7th-round pick, wide receiver Ronnie Bell.
It starts by being able to make plays. And, lots of guys, you expect guys to catch it, when they're in a good spot. And he's missed 2 of those, which were very similar, both of them, that have led to picks. But, I think all you guys saw the plays he's made. Just with the ball in his hand, breaking tackles. I think that's a lot for a guy to do that in his first 2 games as a punt returner and as a receiver. Shows that he can hang with our group, and hopefully he can clean this stuff up because we did give him a lot of opportunities. So by no means was he perfect. So he's still got a long way to go, and he's got to get better. But having Danny down today, Ray down, we need some guys to step it up, and he's getting himself a chance.
That's the reality of the situation. Potentially 2 relatively serious injuries at the wide receiver room. Now, reserve wide receivers, not your starting wide receivers, and Danny Gray and Ray McCloud, but that opens up opportunities. Ronnie Bell last week against the Raiders, the Niners' leading receiver, 3 catches for 58 yards, had that 37-yard catch down the right sideline from Sam Darnold. This week, as you mentioned, 7 catches, 114 yards, had that 43-yard pass over the middle, a catch and run that set up the 49ers' game-winning field goal. 21-20 is the final score. Jake Moody drilled it from 32 yards out as time expired. It's almost as if he, despite the fact that he's making some of these mistakes, again, the 2 drops that turned into interceptions and the fumble, which was recovered, he can get away with them because of what the 49ers wide receiver room is right now. If I were to make a guess right now, I think he's making this roster. As a 7th-round rookie out of Michigan, I think he's making this team simply because the 49ers don't have a ton of other options at the wide receiver room right now. 2 of their guys down with injuries. We don't know the severity, again, of Danny Gray, who we haven't seen a ton of so far in his time with the 49ers. We certainly hope it's not that serious, but if it is something that keeps him out for at least the beginning of the regular season, which seems somewhat likely at least, it does seem to be more serious than we had originally hoped, or that we originally thought when he went down on that first play of the game. Ronnie Bell might be one of the Niners' only answers to their current wide receiver problem.
He's probably going to make the roster by default. He can be your 4th or 5th receiver behind your top 3 guys. He can also be your kick returner and punt returner. Now, is he going to be the best at those jobs? Probably not. Like, you want Danny Gray or you want McLeod back there, and assuming they're healthy again, they'll probably replace him at a certain point unless he proves something else in the meantime. But it's more about, can you grow as a receiver while you have an opportunity and just kind of be a complacent, generic, wait for a fair catch and don't fumble the football when you're on special teams. Like Deshaun Jameson tonight fumbled. That knocks him down a peg. Ronnie Bell didn't, and also was really good in the receiving game. Like that stuff right there, that sets you apart from guys who you're kind of trying to fight for the same position to kind of earn your spot on the roster. Like coming into today, the idea was Ronnie Bell might be on the bubble, showing some good things, but might not make the team. Tonight, he's making the team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't know. Am I crazy to think that both Ronnie Bell and Deshaun Jameson could make this roster? Because what Ronnie Bell has working for him, unfortunately for the Niners, is the injuries to other wide receivers. What Deshaun Jameson has working for him, these guys are both vying for kick return and punt return reps as well. But what Deshaun Jameson, the quarterback, has working for him, cornerback, is the Niners' questions at nickel corner. They have no clue who is going to start week 1 at nickel corner. And it obviously impacts who's starting at their other corner spot opposite Mooney Ward. Both these guys, Deshaun Jameson, undrafted, and Ronnie Bell, 7th-round rookie, not only are they being, their odds of making the roster are increased because of the injury to Ray McLeod, the kick and punt returner, but they're also at 2 position groups where there are question marks all over the place. So am I crazy to think that both of those guys are making this roster?
I think Bell is a better chance than Jameson does, but right now with Isaiah Oliver not really proving to be a starter, he didn't start tonight. Lenore did inside, and Ambry Thomas played outside across from Mooney Ward. So if that's going to be the case and they feel comfortable playing Ambry Thomas, which he was kind of off and on today, kind of a mixed bag from him. Good coverage early on the post route towards the end zone in the first quarter, but then late in the first half makes a dumb play and lets a guy go by him for 35 yards, almost for a touchdown, right? And so if Ambry Thomas can prove enough to be able to start on the outside, or even if they want to give a young player a chance, and Isaiah Oliver's like, I can only play the nickel. I've tried to play the outside in Atlanta and I failed. You're sitting here with Womack and Jameson and Thomas and Lenore and Mooney Ward. All 5 of those guys can play outside, and 4 of them can play outside and inside. What's Oliver's role? Is he going to be a de facto backup nickel cornerback? Usually, those guys don't make teams. If that's the case, do you keep Taylor Hawkins a safety? Do you keep Miles Hartfield, the special team safety guy, while George Odom is still hurt? Like, there are so many options for this team in the secondary that a guy you're paying almost $3 million this year, $2.91 million this year, might not make the team, and he was supposed to be your Jimmy Ward replacement this year.
Yeah, and he had a really bad moment in this game early. I think it was the first quarter, third and eight.
Yep.
And there was a quick throw out, I think it was to a tight end on the left flat from the offense's perspective, and out there to meet him is Isaiah Oliver in the right spot. Yep. He's right there to make the play, but he doesn't wrap up, and the tight end breaks the tackle and gets the first down to move the chains. Really bad moment for Isaiah Oliver. If you're going to be a starter on this Niners team, you can't miss tackles like that. At the very least, you got to slow him down and let the rest of your defense come and wrap him up short of the sticks. He did not do that. He whiffed entirely on the tackle, turned into a first down. They move the chains. They go down and score. That was a really bad moment. the one thing that Isaiah Oliver has going for him is what you mentioned. The Niners owe him or are owed, what, $3 million nearly?
2.91.
That's a decent chunk of money. I mean, I know it's not like going to break their bank and it's not going to keep them from resetting Nick Bosa or anything. That's not what this is.
But when you have $5 million estimated in cap space, you don't want to lose 2.9 of that.
100%. So I feel like you say Ronnie Bell by default making the roster because of the injuries to the wide receiver room, despite the fact that Isaiah Oliver is struggling mightily because of what he's owed compared to what these other guys are owed. I feel like the Niners are going to be like, well, we kind of got to keep him on this 53-man roster. We're not cutting him.
Well, it's like money and draft status, right? And I think that comes into place with Cam Latu today, who had a really nice day. We kind of talked down towards him today in the pregame. I've made jokes throughout the last 2 weeks. He has bricks for hands, and he goes out butterfingers, and he's had a drop problem. And today there was one play where he was like holding on for dear life, saying like, I can catch the football. I can actually do this.
He got the ball with his chest. It bounced around like 3 times between his hands and his chest.
You can see him look at his hands and say, I can do this.
And then he had a really good game after that.
Three catches, 46 yards, 15.3 yards per catch, 1 touchdown from Trey Lance to get that team close to getting the game-winning drive.
Man, he needed that.
And like you can tell that we talked about Trey Lance needs the reps. Cam Latu just needs to catch the football, and he did tonight. And I think, again, it's one game. It's a microcosm of everything that's going on in training camp and preseason and practice. But Cam Latu today, in a small window, did show a reason as to why San Francisco drafted him. He can get open, and when he can catch the football, he can make some plays.
Yeah, so I mean, we both agree. Stock up on Cam Latu.
Oh, yes.
100%.
Yes.
This was the best night of his professional career.
In a short 2-game stint, yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, even talking about, like, say, a day in practice.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had some moments in practice, but for the most part, when you hear Cam Latu's name, it's because he dropped the pass in the end zone in 11-on-11
He fumbled last week after catching a ball. Like, you can tell he's been in his head. And today, caught the football, calmed him down. You saw some confidence from him. He was open on a play and scored a touchdown.
Yeah, so we talked about during the kickoff show the pressure on Jake Moody, the pressure on Cam Latu, and that pressure also squarely on Kyle Shanahan and the decision makers for the 49ers. Because those 2 picks were, 99 and 101?
Yep.
Right? In the third round. And entering the day,
not good.
Your third-round kicker, your third-round tight end, 0 for 2 on field goal attempts in your first preseason game. By the way, he missed an extra point today, but he did go 3 for 3 on field goals, including the game winner from 32 yards out. And your third-round tight end, a case of the dropsies. And he ends up coming through today with a really nice game. So not only is it stock up for those guys, but I'm sure Kyle Shanahan and company back in Niners facility in Santa Clara has been like, okay, thank God they put good days together because those picks were looking disastrous for a bit.
Well, it does feel like today, after last week against the Raiders, it was more a sigh of relief kind of day where really bad on all accounts, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, defense, just what was that in Las Vegas? And today it's, okay, like we're going to be fine.
Deep breath.
Jake Moody's going to be okay. You don't want him to miss the extra point, but I'll take 9 of 10 points on the board. Cam Latu bounces back. Trey Lance bounces back, had a really good day today. Even guys like Ambry Thomas getting their start have a good day. Now, there are still things to clean up. The offensive line is really shaky, but I thought as kind of an overall, the starting offensive line looked really good without Trent Williams being out there. I thought, again, Cam Latu was good. Ronnie Bell was great. Deebo Samuel looked really good. Like, there's a lot to take away from this game, whereas last week it's, what is this team? How do you even react to what that was on TV?
Yeah.
Today it's almost thumbs up all across the board. Like, it was really an overwhelmingly success for San Francisco today.
It really was. A couple of minutes left here on overtime on 95.7 The Game. One thing I did want to throw out to you really quick before we do wrap things up. Without Christian McCaffrey today, also Elijah Mitchell still out with an injury. It seems like that's the story of his career, unfortunately. You got to see a lot of Ty Davis-Price and Jordan Mason today. Also, Jeremy McNichols got in at the end and played a lot of that fourth quarter, had 6 carries for 29 yards. Ty Davis-Price, 4 rushes, 22 yards. Jordan Mason, 8 for 24. You mentioned on the kickoff show, you feel like with Elijah Mitchell's injury history, perhaps Jordan Mason and TDP, Ty Davis-Price, are competing for the RB2 spot.
Well, I think they want Christian McCaffrey, undisputed, running back one, if not the best player in the NFL, really, when it comes to being a skilled position player. But I think they want Jordan Mason to be that short yardage closer in the fourth quarter. If it's 3rd and 3, go out there and ice this game for us and get the drive moving. And there's 2 minutes left. Get us past the 2-minute warning so we can take 3 knees and call it a day. For TDP, averaging 5.5 yards an attempt, you can tell for him, and I think there's a reason he was drafted in the 3rd round last year. We're talking about 3rd round picks. Jake Moody came law to TDP. Like, Ty Davis Price has a chance to win this running back 2 job. Mitchell can really never stay healthy, unfortunately, because when he's healthy, he's really good.
Yeah.
But for TDP to come in here, there was one play that, misses a pass block, and I get it, doesn't fight for a ball in the air. There are still things a young player has to improve on that may not make Kyle Shanahan want to play him more often, but had a huge run to put this game kind of on ice and get them into field goal territory at like the 10-yard line and give Trey Lance 3 knees, a timeout, and let Moody go out there and get that game-winning field goal. So TDP, decisive running, almost 6 yards a carry. How can you look at that and say, I don't want that as my running back 2? Really decisive in his cuts. And I think the field vision has improved so much from him in just his 2nd year in the NFL that it's going to be hard to say no to getting him reps come the regular season.
Yeah, that 15-yard run that essentially sealed the win for the 49ers. All it took was the 32-yard field goal for Jake Moody. Good play there for Ty Davis Price. I thought he needed it. I tend to lean Jordan Mason in this battle specifically because of Jordan Mason's ability in the pass protection game. It seems like he's picking that up much quicker and better than Ty Davis Price. There was a moment in this first half, I think it was when Sam Darnold was in, and there was just a free rusher up the middle, Ty Davis Price, not going out on a route. He was there to block, to pass protect, and he absolutely whiffed on a block, and I think it turned into a sack. If not a sack, it was just a throwaway incompletion. But he missed on that, and that's something that if you're a reserve running back under Kyle Shanahan, you make a mistake like that, you're going to lose reps as a result. I think that's what hurt him last year as well, when Jordan Mason was getting some run before the Christian McCaffrey acquisition. So we'll see how it does play out. A good end to Ty Davis Price's game, but I think I lean Jordan Mason.
Well, what's the old saying? Like, what is their saying in San Francisco? No block, no rock. TDP, you got to block if you want to get some carries, and I think Jordan Mason does have some versatility in special teams, and it can do. I think that's what separated him last year. But for Ty Davis Price, it's all like, what does Elijah Mitchell do? Is he great in pass blocking? He's fine.
Can't do it.
He's a good runner. He's a good runner, and he's like Ty Davis Price fights for every yard.
He does.
Like he
runs hard.
Rarely goes down, and you keep your head down, keep your pads low. That's going to get you carries in the NFL.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it for overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Thank you so much for tuning in all night long. Also, those of you who were with us for the kickoff show earlier today, thank you so much. It was a really fun day here on 95.7 The Game. Again, the Niners pick up a win 21-20 over the Denver Broncos. One more preseason game left on Friday, Friday, August 25th. I'm looking ahead to the regular season. Friday, August 25th, the Niners against the Chargers, 7 o'clock kickoff for the Niners in their final preseason game of the year coming up in 6 days from now. Again, thank you so much for tuning in all night long. For Craig Valentino, behind the glass, for my partner Sterling Bennett, this is Mark Randy signing off. Thanks so much for tuning in to Overtime here on 95.7 The Game, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Owning a house could be stressful. The costly repairs, the